I, I will give him the first statement that it's highly volatile, and at this point, it's tough to use for transactions. But then he says it's not really a store of value, and then says it's essentially a substitute for gold. So the 4,000, 5,000 year store of value that we know historically is gold. And he just said it's like gold, but it's not a store of value. So does he not think gold is a store of value? And with what the Fed's doing right now, is $1? Is he really making the case that that's a store of value?
Well, hey, Joe, you're thinking about it exactly the right way. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. So first of all, as a store of value, I would just say there's a reason people have flocked to Bitcoin in the last year, right? Which is something else happened in the last year. And that is that we increased the money supply by 40%. So when you do that in a world of supply and demand, it means that the dollar is at least a 40% less good store of value than it was a year ago. And that is one of the reasons people look to Bitcoin. But Joe, the point I really want to make is the dollar may not actually be backed by anything. Obviously, we went off the gold standard in the Nixon administration, but cryptocurrencies actually are backed by something. They're backed by underlying networks. And what you're buying when you buy a crypto token, whether it's Bitcoin or anything else, is you're buying a piece of a financial network that's being built to transact all kinds of stuff. And the number of things that have gone on chain in the last 2 years is enormously high. That's why the cryptocurrency market today is almost a $2 trillion market. I believe in the wisdom of crowds personally, and I think that there's kind of like forces of the future at work here and then forces of the status quo. I think the crowds are telling you that these networks are where finance is going in the future. I'd want to be part of that.
Happy Bitcoin Tuesday, freaks. It's your boy, Matt Odell, here for another episode of Citadel Dispatch. This is Citadel Dispatch 15, the interactive live show about Bitcoin distributed systems, open source software, and privacy. I'm joined by a return guest and good friend, Open Arms, well known for his work towards making Join Market more user-friendly with his Join Inbox project. And Nopara, who is the founder of Wasabi Wallet, one of the easiest to use coinjoin implementations available. We look forward to discussing a very important topic today in that Bitcoin privacy and using Bitcoin privately, why it's important, the current tools at our disposal, future tools at our disposal, and tangential discussions with that. I am aware that we usually come to you at 2100 UTC. It is earlier today because of time zones and because this discussion is an important one and wanted to make it happen. So thank you to all the freaks who were able to make it at this earlier time. If you're joining us through the audio feed, the Citadel Dispatch can be viewed live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. Then after the fact, it goes to our podcast feeds, both the Citadel Dispatch dedicated feed and the Tales from the Crypt feed. So you might be listening to us there. Also, full archives without ads are posted on citadeldispatch.com, both video and audio, hosted on Keybase and on Telegram. So with all that said, if you're joining us via audio, that clip out in the beginning was Brian Brooks, who is like the former lead lawyer for Coinbase. And he was also the former comptroller of the currency, talking to our boy Joe Kernan on CNBC candidly about Powell's, our current Fed chair's statements regarding Bitcoin and whether or not it's a store of value or a money. And it's just, I don't know, it's kind of funny that it's just hit the mainstream news in that way. And they just talk about it so candidly. They talk about 40% money supply printing, which used to be like things that people would talk about in like dark corners of the internet. And now it's just on CNBC. Anyway, with all that said, I want to thank the freaks again for joining us live. And I want to thank both NoPar and Open Arms for joining us for this discussion. I'd like to, I figure we should start with the discussion with why the Bitcoin privacy discussion is so important to Bitcoiners and why it should be important to Bitcoiners and why freaks should care about it. And with that said, let's start with you, Nopara. What do you think here? How's it going?
Hey guys, I'm happy to be part of this potentially historic conversation. So I would like to talk a bit about Bitcoin privacy and its importance. And I thought maybe the best way to communicate it is that I just present my thesis on it, that basically operating based on that maybe during the past year. And it all starts with the properties of good money, which I assume many people have heard about before. The divisibility, portability, fungibility, and so on, where Bitcoin brings scarcity to the table, so no one can print more, and the only remaining problems left in Bitcoin is acceptability, portability, and fungibility. Acceptability is an easy one because it's taking care of itself. If we improve the other properties of money, then acceptability is going to take care of itself. Portability is something that Bitcoin is, or any other cryptocurrency, to my knowledge, lacks a lot, and that's a very important topic to work on. However, there is an army of open source developer working on portability. And that leaves us with fungibility, which is, I suppose for the sake of this conversation, we can say fungibility, privacy, and anonymity are the same things in this context, but we might elaborate on that later. And, fungibility is not something that many people dare to work on, especially on the implementation side, because there are large forces and interests trying to control the citizens of every world, and one of the tools of control is mass surveillance. And so it would not be a good idea to let a private, anonymous, fungible currency to be released to the world. But, this is going to happen. It may happen with Bitcoin, it may happen with Monero, it may happen with other alternative cryptocurrencies. But my guess is, and I suppose everyone else's guess here is the same, that Bitcoin is going to take over the world because people don't care that much about fungibility. Fungibility, privacy is something that matters until it stops mattering. And so if Bitcoin takes over the world, then 40 years from now, we will tell a very different story to our grandchildren than if we have Bitcoin privacy ready than without privacy in Bitcoin. So I believe that's why fungibility may be the most important thing to work on right now at this moment.
I think you make some very good points there. I think what a lot of people don't appreciate in the Bitcoin circles is that this is larger than just Bitcoin. We're seeing transgressions made by large governments and corporations around the world on people's privacy, regardless if they're a Bitcoiner. Bitcoin is a subset within that. If we expect it to be the money that that the world will run on, the future money of the world, then obviously it's going to become a bigger and bigger aspect of the private equation. And it's important that, especially with something like Bitcoin, where you have this open ledger that's we expect to exist forever. If we don't work on this soon, mistakes that are made today could come back to haunt people in the future. Those things are never, the ledger will never change. So if you make a mistake today, in 5 years, 10 years, it can come back to haunt you. OpenOms, you've dedicated a large portion of your time. I know you don't do this full time, and I have tons of respect for the work you've done towards trying to make Bitcoin more private in your work with Join-in-Box. What is your perspective here? Why show the freaks why they should care about using Bitcoin more privately and improving Bitcoin privacy guarantees, at least on the app level?
Yes, exactly. I mean, I agree with the things said previously, and also, I mean, coinjoin is one thing. Is a very important and very efficient tool, but I mean, limited in scale. But we'll talk about that probably. Also, I mean, I do approach privacy and from all the different angles, as we do all from the network level to the base Bitcoin level and the base layer level, and also going on second layers like Lightning and other kind of solutions are as important as well. So I like to use all the tools available. And why it is so important, because this is just so much different from what we had before. We have a system for registering and surveilling transactions, which is made for a private banking system. And having a decentralized, open public ledger, which everyone can read and use, is just so completely different that it needs to be used differently. We need to put emphasis on caring for our privacy, because otherwise everything is just out in the open, and you will be having a surveillance tool which has been never seen before. And obviously you need to avoid exposing all your financial activity for your personal safety, but it's also important for your business or any other business, this is essential for the operation of a free market. So you need to be able to only expose things which you choose to, which is the main kind of aim here, that you can prove everything, but you don't want to expose more than necessary. So yeah, I mean, this is just my kind of, I would like to work towards a future which I'd like to see, rather than a dystopian Orwell 1984 one, which could be as well as a reality if privacy would be non-existent.
I mean, you mentioned 1984. Do you guys think there's a lot of comparisons here with Bitcoin privacy, spending money privately, to speaking privately, private speech, encryption?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a transaction, either it's a form of communication, financial transactions as well. So being able to communicate freely is essential for for a healthy life and for the kind of function of the society or civilization.
So, with all that said, I mean, I agree with the premise, OpenOms. I think that I want to cover all sorts of tools we have available to us, not just CoinJoin, on this conversation. And we will get to that. But before we do, I think, well, first of all, to any new freaks that are here, if you're watching live, the top price is the Evil Empire's Coinbase's price, and then the bottom is BISC, which is why BISC is not moving as frequently. It has way less volume than Coinbase. So I mean, I think a great place to start here is Nopara spent a good amount of time releasing Wasabi Wallet to the world. And I'm curious, your perspective, Nopara. We know now you're working on Wasabi Wallet 2.0, and we will get to that. But before we do, with all these users using Wasabi, what have you learned from that experience? What have you learned? What are the lessons that were learned from Wasabi that are hopefully being used going forward in terms of Wasabi 2.0 development?
Okay, so it doesn't really connect that much to privacy, but I think this is the largest lesson I learned, or I'm still trying to learn or figure out how to think about that, because I started Wasabi alone in 2015, and then for 2 years I pretty much worked alone with 1 or 2 people, joined to the adventure for a shorter period of time. But then when started to work with more and more people together, and I never worked in a big company before, and I don't know how things are taken care of in big companies. So I came from this Bitcoin open source ethos where everyone is doing his or her best to the best of his or her ability, and so our hiring process was it was very simple. We give you money every month and you do whatever you would like to do, and this led to us going to many different directions and not going to a common goal, to not targeting the same thing together. And I did not change it in a way that how you would work in a normal company. That's management has the objectives, and that's how it must happen. But what I figured, maybe the best way to run a company, I have no idea, but the best way to run a company is to try to convince everyone to go towards the same goal and see what happens. And that's when, that happened 1.5 year ago, and we'll see. So basically my largest learning experience is that when you let people do whatever they want without any input, they will do very good things, which microcosmically makes a lot of sense, but macrocosmically it doesn't really.
Can you remind us when Wasabi Wallet was released on mainnet? When did you do the first coinjoin with it?
It's 2018.
Yeah.
Wow.
It
feels way more recent than that, doesn't it, Open Arms?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, especially that was basically the time I was starting to look into more deeply into Bitcoin and Bitcoin privacy itself, and started to contribute to project and things, and kind of Wasabi Wallet was one of the first advanced interface which I've started to use, providing a very good coin control and just generally being able to just open it and using it fairly privately from the network level, without having a full node running yet at that time. So it was certainly a change of the way people were interacting with Bitcoin.
I mean, the space was massively different back then. I mean, if you look at some of the top projects, things like Spectre, all the node packages, you know, the Raspberry Blitz, Umbrel. When did Raspberry Blitz start? Like, I don't think that was even a thing yet, right? In 2018.
I think it started in the spring of 2018, and I started contributing towards the end. It is pretty much as Lightning came to mainnet shortly after.
Because before Raspberry Blitz was Raspberry, what's the other one?
The Raspberry Bolt was the
Bolt, right?
The project Staticus. I mean, it was basically the same kind of thing to get Bitcoin and Lightning, you know, running, because now there was an added incentive to run a node, not just you know, spinning up Bitcoin Core on your desktop, but you wanted to have an online one for or a dedicated hardware on the Raspberry Pi to start with, to use a node, to run a node, a Lightning node, more specifically.
So, I mean, to circle back here, Nopara, I mean, I appreciate the insight. I think a lot of what you answered my previous question about lessons learned come from the organization side, running such a large free open source project and a for-profit company that's like one and the same, which is actually really novel, especially in the Bitcoin space, that there is this simple path to monetization of a free open source project, that you're able to run this coordinator and collect CoinJoin fees and actually be quite profitable, is extremely novel. Historically, wallets have had a lot of difficulty monetizing in an ethical way. Usually they end up adding fiat KYC on-ramps and stuff to try and get fees, which is obviously really poor incentive if you want a free open source project to be focused on privacy. But I guess the point of my question was more, and maybe this is just because of my perspective. I mean, I'd already understood the importance of Bitcoin privacy tools, mostly because when I was an early Bitcoiner, I made a lot of fucking mistakes. And those mistakes exist on the ledger forever. Like, I made those mistakes. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. And they're there. They exist. And all these mistakes are expanded even. They're made much worse because of this creeping KYC the KYC, know your customer, anti-money laundering regulation, where they require this really intimate exchanges, require this really intimate private information that they store on you, that oftentimes gets leaked, hacked. We just had the largest KYC hack ever. Happened, I think, yesterday, or it came out yesterday or 2 days ago in India. It was like 140 million people had their intimate personal information leaked. And that's just going to get worse and worse and worse. As we have more of our personal information online, it'll undoubtedly get hacked, sold, leaked at some point in the future, aggregated and stored insecurely. So that exacerbates the Bitcoin privacy concerns to me. But I guess that's kind of long-winded. My perspective has been, when Wasabi came out, you know, I was like very outspoken. Anyone who was around at the time remembers I was a very outspoken Wasabi user and promoter. And I realized, you know, these tools allow you, the goal of these tools is to hide amongst a crowd. The goal of these tools is you need usage for them. You could have the best tool ever, but if there's only 10 people using it, it doesn't matter what kind of privacy gains you get, because an attacker still knows you're one of 10 people. And so usage is extremely important. Normalization is extremely important. Getting those numbers up sooner rather than later is extremely important. And we exist in a space where the people we're up against, it's an asymmetrical fight. The people we're up against are hiding in the shadows. They don't tell us what they know. They don't tell us what they're doing. They don't tell us the data they're aggregating on us, but everything we do is in the open. All free open source software development's in the open. The ledger's in the open. All of our activities are in the open. Education, promotion, usage, all of this is in the open on our side. And the attackers are secretive, and we don't really know what they're doing. So I guess where I'm going with this is, from my perspective, myself using Wasabi and other people using Wasabi, there was the questions they would ask me, there was a lot that I learned about designing privacy focused software for an end user in mind. And I was wondering what takeaways you had, because I know, like, and I guess we could get into it more, but like, I think, am I wrong in saying that the point of Wasabi Wallet 2.0 is to try and mitigate a lot of the concerns that were learned from a user perspective with Wasabi Wallet 1?
So, yes, but that's not the main point why we started researching it. Yes. So definitely to fix all the concerns that people have. But the main point is that, you know, Zero Link was figured out, so actually Wasabi was figured out, so it breaks the links between the coins that arrives to your wallet to the coins those are anonymized and private in your wallet. Like it doesn't do more. Like anyway, so the main reason is that we could already see, and even in the times of Zero Link, because I kept opening issues regarding that, but we could already see the huge limitations what Xiaomi and CoinJoins with Zero Link applies. What is the potential of them? And it's not great. It doesn't go much further than that. It can go further.
What kind of limitations?
Oh, you know, the minimum denomination, this point, what I just said, that it breaks the link from the wallet, from the coins receiving to the wallet, to the coins spending to the wallet, that there are coins in between, right? Like if you mix a coin, you spend it, and that generates a change, then that change shouldn't really go into the mix. I mean, sometimes it's a good idea, but it's not clear, right? Like these kind of limitations. But the main limitation is the block space efficiency. If we keep creating these simple equal output coin joins, what we are doing right now, then we're going to be priced out very fast. And you know, I think we don't have we are not arguing about that, right? Like if more people come to Bitcoin, then block space goes up, so proportionately coin join fees are gonna be more painful to people than if
some would argue
people...
it's already priced out, right? Like it's significantly more expensive to use CoinJoin than to not use CoinJoin. I mean, the cheapest way for someone to use Bitcoin is just the worst privacy possible, right? It's just like consolidate all of your UTXOs into a single fucking UTXO and then just spend from that.
Exactly. And actually, this is something what I've learned, that it never really gets priced out, because it will always be economical to mix with more Bitcoins, right? And that's a problem, because it doesn't matter how much money you are transacting with it Bitcoin. What matters is how many bytes your transactions are using up, how much block space you're using up, and that does not correlate with the amount. So there will always be economical to mix with larger amounts. But yeah, this is going up and up and up the equilibrium, right?
Yeah, so I mean, like I've come to the conclusion that, you know, using Bitcoin privately will always be more expensive, I think. I don't, you know, even in like a world where we have signature aggregation and we have Lightning and stuff, maybe Lightning provides some kind of incentive to, you know, use Bitcoin more privately that's cheaper for you. And we can get into that later. But I've kind of come to the conclusion that it'll always be more expensive. The goal should be maybe to make it only slightly more expensive. But when it comes to increasing adoption, obviously the single most important thing you can do is lower costs. But I think the other two big things that people don't really talk about is, first of all, UX is super fucking important. And I want to dive into this with OpenOms because of, Join Market was around, I think it launched in 2015 as a project. And it never really got that much adoption, I think primarily because of UX. And we can jump in that in a second. But the other thing that I've noticed that I've learned from an education point of view on the front lines with users who I've provided workshops for and handheld them and stuff is like the defaults are super fucking important. 99% of people will never fucking change the defaults. And if an educator or a promoter is trying to increase adoption of something, telling them, if you have a bunch of gotchas that you have to tell them every time you try and onboard someone new, change this, change that, make sure you don't do this, make sure you don't do that, make sure you don't do this. They're, especially in a world where all you have to do is make one mistake in privacy and it's on the ledger forever and you're fucked. It's a losing strategy. It's a strategy where you just, you're trying to run uphill. And we've seen this with OpenOms is he's packaged Join Market into this like Raspberry image and Join in Box to try and make the default experience of Join Market better. Nopar, would you agree with me there that most users aren't changing defaults and having sane, reasonable defaults is like really the only way to go forward with this?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, you can go even further, and I'm pretty sure you encounter this situation many times when you're talking with someone who is into Monero and they are talking about Monero have privacy by default, and they bring this up as an argument like that's not what you would want, but that's exactly our goal with Bitcoin, right? Privacy by default. Now, will we ever get there? That's a good question, but that's definitely
I always think
work.
Yeah. Sorry for cutting you off. I mean, I just always think it's so interesting that there's all these insecure Bitcoiners that when people like us talk about, improving Bitcoin privacy guarantees, they think it's like some kind of underhanded promotion of Monero. But really, like the biggest existential threat to Monero is that Bitcoin's easier to use privately. Like if we're successful here, like there's absolutely no reason to use Monero. So it's absolutely hilarious to me how often I have people like chirping at me that, like I'm like secretly promoting Monero. It makes no fucking sense logically.
So, I mean, the work that they are doing is very important, right? Like if Bitcoin would really stay at it is today in terms of privacy, then the only thing that would save a totalitarian mass surveillance political system would be like a private altcoin. So I think it's very important that they are doing it. It just, my calculation is that probably people don't care that much and gonna use Bitcoin anyway, even if it's not private.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective is I think Bitcoin, is going to be successful. So if we expect widespread Bitcoin usage, then the focus as someone who cares about privacy should be, making it easier to use privately as much as possible, because I think it's going to be super successful regardless. OpenOms. So you want to give some insight here in your opinion on your work on Join in Box and why defaults are important, why UX is important, why accessibility is important, why we have to increase these numbers. Like I really do feel like how many CoinJoin users do we think there are, guys? Like, do we think are there more than 10,000 people in the world using CoinJoin right now?
Well, it would make sense if you could tell.
But just saying gut. I think that's a very conservative overestimate. I think we're not even near 10,000.
Yes, I mean, what I can see in the join market order book, we usually have between 100 and 200 offers, which means those are separate wallets, not necessarily separate people, but you know,
It's an upper bound.
it is.
The max it probably is,
Of-
is the max it is like 200 people.
Yeah, of makers. Yes.
Right.
Of makers who are running at a time. Right. But so coming to join market, it's a great rabbit hole. You know, I was very, very happy to fall down into, but to be honest, it needed some, you know, previous training with being familiar with Bitcoin transactions and like derivation paths, you know, things like gap limit and, you know, things which you would not just have when the only thing which you were used is a mobile wallet before. But if you have run a node and you have seen the command line before, then I think it is a very good thing to look into what this OG and continuously improved wallet is able to offer. So if you've used like Bitcoin Core in the command line, then is nothing stopping you to use Join Market as well. Join Market also has a Qt interface similar to what Bitcoin Core offers, which is like where you can do coin control with a click of a button, and you can like send coin joins and send and receive pay joins as well. So I mean, so it is very, very usable, but it has this requirement that you must run a full node, because that's what it is connecting to. It needs the Bitcoin RPC interface provided by Bitcoin Core to interact with the network and get the information out of your balances and your transactions. So that's kind of the first thing, which could have been, which could have improved a lot with just packaging it into Raspberries basically, and then also it works as a standalone in Join Inbox. So you just spared that kind of setup process that now you need to set up a full node and install a Python package. All of this works best in Linux. So if you're not running Linux, that you are in a bit of a difficulty, although you have like a Windows.exe as well, which you can try. But yeah, and you can use something like Wasabi as well in Windows, but you know, I wouldn't trust any significant amounts on a computer running closed source spyware. Right?
Does the Bitcoin privacy discussion start with Linux?
Yes, I think so. As I've said in the beginning, you know, there are different levels to this in your whole life, and starting with not leaking everything or a lot of things without your knowledge out of your computer is the first step to have better privacy. And then you can move on to your phone, and then, you know, you can try to work towards running software only which you trust, or which is auditable and which is based on freedom, basically. But and this, yes.
There's two things here, Open Arms, right? There's on-chain footprint and how your transactions look on chain, on a chain that we expect to exist forever. I expect the Bitcoin blockchain to outlive me, right? Outlive my grandkids, outlive their grandkids. Like, this fucking thing's going to be there forever. So you have the on-chain footprint that is on this ledger forever, that everyone can view and inspect forever. And then you have this like network level, advanced attacker type of threat, right? Where like Windows is closed source, right? So maybe information is leaking through your Windows computer to Microsoft or some kind of closed source vendor that's operating on a Microsoft product or Apple or something like that, or your phone or something like that. But do we agree
to Alexa and Google Home and etc.? Yeah,
right. Like people have fucking, they buy wiretaps and they install them in their house that are run by global corporations that coordinate with governments.
Exactly. That's the first step.
But would you agree though that from a overarching basis, if we're looking at trying to help the most amount of users have some kind of decent privacy improvements with Bitcoin, the on-chain footprint is the first place to start. It's almost it's the thing that's going to be there forever. It's the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. I mean, so and sorry for kind of derailing the conversation to.
No, I love this. This is great. Continue.
What software you are using, but I just try to kind of explain why it is difficult to get started with join market first of all, because it's based in these principles that you already through these steps before, right? That your kind of software practice or like informatic technology practice is already kind of at a level where you can deal with the command line, right? But it's obvious that this is not true for most people, and you shouldn't be spending that much time. I mean, for an average, or if you are not a software developer or like a Bitcoin fanatic like us, right? So that's why we have these node packages, and that's why I've tried to put it as easy as possible to just install from a menu, press a button basically, and then you are provided with an interface, which is an interactive guide, where you see the options, what you can do, and you don't need to look up any unfamiliar syntax in the command line, but it shows you what it does, but you can just choose what you want to do. You don't need to look it up. So this kind of approach is just an interactive guide, so you don't need to follow a tutorial, but the tutorial is inside there. And I mean, so I've seen that people do enjoy, and I know a lot of people who have started to use join market because of this. And then once you get used to it, it has such a wealth of functions that you can do the most things which other wallets do as well. And there are advantages of the architecture, how it is built up, because I mean, the most important thing I see with coin joins, and as we've discussed before as well, and which is somewhat kind of makes it complicated, and what it is not present in Wasabi, that you have this mixed depth or different accounts idea, that you're separating those coins which have not been mixed, those which have been through a coin join, and the change from those transactions. And this happens in join markets in a way that it has kind of a circular architecture of 5 accounts, also called mixed depths, where the coins are just tumbling through, only able to progress between an account from an account to another if they are going through a coin join. And the unmixed change from that transaction is left behind in the previous account, and the coin join output is progressing to the next account. And also how the wallet is written, I mean, obviously you have all freedom to do whatever you like, but the default is that you are not allowed to merge coins between different accounts, meaning you are not merging the coin join outputs with the unmixed transactions. And this is something which is the basic principle of dealing with join market, and also it just needs a bit of understanding, because you deposit some money, deposit some Bitcoin, and then it goes through a couple of coin joins, and where did it go? Where it didn't go, it's still in the wallet, but it's in a different account, separated.
So let's pull those back for a second for the freaks in the back who are completely fucking lost right now.
Right.
I think the place where we should start here is coin control. Coin control is this idea that for a lot of the freaks, your wallet that you're used to using on mobile, or even like one of the mainstream hardware wallets, like a Trezor, wallet.trezor.io or Ledger, they hide the gory details from you because they want to make it easier for you. But what they do is really, when you have a wallet and it says, let's say it says you have 40 million sats in your wallet, really it's not just 40 million sats in your wallet. There's all these different transactions in your wallet UTXOs, unspent transaction outputs, is what we call them, that add up to 40 million sats. So you have like one that's 10 million sats, one that's 5 million sats, one that's 15 million sats, and they're all coming from presumably different sources. If I pay OpenOms 5 million sats and his mom for Christmas pays him 3 million sats, his wallet says 8 million sats, but really there's one transaction for me and one transaction from his mom. So if he chooses the transaction for me to spend it, if he combines those together, then me and his mom both know he owns that other transaction. So there was this
Common ownership heuristic, right?
Right. But unfortunately, in Bitcoin land, there was this push by all these software wallet makers to kind of hide that from the user. And it was a major negative to privacy. So now we have wallets like Wasabi. Join Market already had coin control. Bitcoin Core has always had coin control. But Wasabi was like one of the first consumer grade wallets for like the average consumer that just fucking put it right in front of you. You had to use coin control. They forced it on you, and you had to label everything. And labeling is important because in 5 years, when it comes time to spend, you're not going to remember which transaction came from me and which transaction came from OpenOms' mom. So you need to fucking label it. But the problem exists that if we're trying to increase adoption here, expecting a user to, it's like the unfortunate reality, like expecting a user to like use critical thinking and logic for every transaction they make and selecting their inputs seems like a lost fucking cause. Like how many users can we expect to do that? Is that, am I wrong here? Like, am I just jaded?
Oh, you're absolutely correct. I mean, the last many 1.5 years, I was thinking about how to remove coin control and what does coin control really, what's the purpose behind it? Like, what does this want to actually do? And I go into this. So I think there are two very important things here. Is coin control, you want to somehow avoid change. This is change avoidance. You want to avoid changes in transactions, and we will have a solution for that. But the other thing is which is the labels, or more precisely, what you're really interested in is about not the individual coins in terms of privacy, but what you're interested in is the wallet, the clusters that an outside blockchain analysis might establish from your wallet content. And that makes it much simpler if you think about it, because instead of having 100 coin in your wallet, seeing 100 coin in your wallet, now you would only see a couple of clusters belonging to connected to multiple entities who might know about those clusters. And I think we can do that. But even further, a long time ago we realized is that there isn't much difference between mixed coins. Like, there is no reason to have coin control for mixed coins except for change avoidance. And yeah, so I think we should be able to remove it. Yeah.
But so two things there. Let's unpack that a little bit. First of all, that last point is one of the reasons why I've been so outspoken about equal output coin joins, or just some kind, like this idea that it allows you to almost press a reset button on a coin's history. You have a wallet that has a bunch of UTXOs and you didn't fucking do any labeling at the time. You have no idea where any of those came from. If you had a effective CoinJoin implementation that you could use, you could almost in effect reset all of those UTXOs back to a base where it doesn't matter which one you spend. So there's a way to kind of reduce the need necessarily for stringent recording and coin control usage by an individual. It seems like it's mostly a dream still, but there's something to be said there, especially if you use it in terms of, and we'll get into this later, but something like Lightning, right? Where if a wallet like automatically turns in output that you don't know what the history of it is into a CoinJoin output, resets it, and then opens a channel with it, and then you spend on Lightning going forward to have like some kind of level of forward privacy. The first thing you mentioned, are you like implying that to have like a wallet that almost runs like on the fly chain analysis on your UTXOs to group them together?
Yes, exactly. It's much easier to do if you know exactly the wallet content.
But I mean, that'd be very computationally intensive, right?
Oh no, because you know the wallet content, you know exactly what coin came from where, and then you can apply some basic heuristic like common ownership heuristics. And
is that because of labeling though? Is that what you're insinuating? Like you use the labels to group them together, or is the user providing any information here?
Yes, you use the labels to create the clusters.
Yeah, I mean this is quite simple thing. If you see the transaction graph and you have the history of the coins, and you have obviously the wallet already together. Like Join Market has automatic labeling as well, and this exactly by these principles with a very simple kind of couple of lines of Python script. It does label the UTXOs to a deposit, a change output, a non-CoinJoin output, a CoinJoin output, and like address reused and things like that. So, I mean, it is a transaction analysis rather than chain analysis, I would say, because it doesn't really go back in the history.
Yes, that's a good point.
I mean, it's kind of. I mean, are we expecting like are these like, you know, so-called compliance bros? Are we gonna have like? I guess I'm kind of just getting really tangential here, and we'll come back. But do we expect that they're gonna have like merchant wallets that are designed to actually like integrate some of these chain surveillance companies to do like on the fly fucking transaction analysis as you're paying them? Like, is this a concern?
That's already happening with the exchanges, right? I mean, you know,
right.
all the ones which are flagging CoinJoins, you know, they.
But I mean, are we gonna have like
algorithm.
a popular mobile wallets implemented and shit? Like, obviously, the custodial platforms are already doing this behind closed doors.
I mean, there is Sparrow Wallet, for example, which does show you these kind of transaction analysis right up, you know, of the bat on the GUI of the wallet. Obviously, it doesn't go back into the history, but it could. There is no reason to not do that. But that's the point, that it should make no sense to do it, because it should be just a mess. That's what we are trying to achieve, to improve the entropy of these transactions. And, you know, just then you are just kind of fishing in the muddled waters for some kind of information but there would be nothing which you can find out.
So yeah.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, that's a good point, that, you know, when you're mixing, then it doesn't have to do any chain analysis, because on your mixed coins, the only thing that coin control does at that point is that you can avoid changes. And if you can implement something that helps the user avoid changes, then you don't need coin control for mixed coins. Now, for not mixed coins, which are the labeled coins, that's where chain analysis must be. Well, okay, so I think we don't have a choice here, right? Like, one choice is that we don't do any coin control and any blockchain analysis, any wallet, inter-wallet analysis. I'm not sure how to call it, but that's a bad thing, right? Because then everything is connected together, like in normal wallets. You eventually end up end up connecting together with common ownership heuristics or your UTXO. So that's not good. So you have to have coin control then, or this kind of chain analysis tool, which makes it somewhat easier than a coin control.
I mean, the one solution or like help here is obviously we are thinking alongside that you have a mixed coin, and it doesn't matter which one you spend, but unfortunately, it's very rarely possible that you won't have a change. And then, okay, you have one change and you label that you have paid for groceries or whatever, and then you make another donation for like HRF or anything, and then maybe you do send another one to Tor project, which might be seen kind of, it could be even illegal in your country. And then you have 3 changes like this. And then when you send these changes together, then it will be obvious to the one who you're paying with this merge transaction that you've been paying Tor projects and the grocery shop and the and HRF as well. And also we'll see that how much it was. But
unless
yes, I mean, that's where this kind of so-called post-mix tools or kind of the spending can be different, like you can do with some implementations. For example, in Join Market, you can pay with inside a CoinJoin. Also, you can use PayJoin, where the transaction amount is not obvious, and also the common input ownership heuristic is broken as well. So, there are ways to make that change coming from the spending of that mixed UTXO not be toxic, so-called.
Yes, so that's a good point. So, for example, PayJoin is a somewhat of a solution to that. Mixing the change is somewhat of a solution. The question is, how would you avoid change without coin control? And the idea here is that when you want to send some money to someone, you type in the amount and then you click continue, and there is you don't send a transaction just yet, but there is a screen that gives you 3 options. One of the option is you continue normally, like you send the exact amount that you typed in. The other 2 option is that you send a little bit less or a little bit more, and that little bit less and little bit more is not going to generate changes. So I think that's an elegant way of trying to tackle this issue, and then we'll see what happens in practice. But I'm hopeful.
Yeah, and then also another very obvious solution, which I do like to use now, is to go to layer 2. So you have a coin, which is a CoinJoin output, and especially in Join Market, it can be any amount, right? There are no mixed pools, but no fixed amount pools, but you can CoinJoin any amount you like. It will be an equal amount CoinJoin, the equal amount output, but only within that CoinJoin. So you will have various sizes of coins in your wallet, especially if you're running as a maker and you will allow other people to use your liquidity to CoinJoin with. And you can take a size UTXO you like. For example, I don't know, will want to spend £300 on groceries this month, or let's see, whatever, £1,000. So I take a UTXO which is slightly which is similar to that amount, which I want to spend during a time for a similar purpose, and I open a Lightning channel with it without creating a change. So there will be no so-called toxic change there at all. And then I keep this Lightning wallet completely separate, so it will be one pop key to that one UTXO, and I just spend it, and I don't close the channel until I've spent all. And that would not create change again. And also, if I didn't spend all the things for my groceries, something has been left behind, that I can just use a swap service where I can get someone else's UTXO back for my Lightning payment.
But that's a very good point. Rolling onto Lightning Network, the user doesn't care that much about how much money goes to the Lightning Network, and you can just get close to his intent, and hopefully that's enough.
Well, I mean, the goal, I think, for a lot of people in the space, that a lot of developers I've talked to, is this idea that make every Lightning, channel open a CoinJoin, which could increase usage numbers. I mean, people have to open a channel anyway. There's actually an incentive there, a nice incentive, where it could be cheaper for them to open a channel into Lightning if they CoinJoin at the same time and group with other people. And I think that kind of goes back to what I said previously, where I think the first low-hanging fruit goal should be reducing on-chain fucking errors, because those are forever. So, I mean, we can go back and forth on the theoretical concerns of Lightning privacy, which I think there are a lot of them. New York City Bitcoiner and friend Gleb released like a paper a couple days ago on, I didn't want to butcher his last name. It's like Numenko. Released a paper on like Lightning probing and all these, jamming channels and trying to figure out channel balances and tracking Lightning transactions, and pub keys are fixed right now. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of concerns to me.
Yeah.
With
public
Lightning.
channels are easy to probe, but you can use private channels, and you can use parallel private channels as well, which makes it much more difficult.
Right, but
open obviously, it's
before we get
work.
there, my point is, at least you remove that on-chain issue, right? At least you remove that concern of that on-chain footprint that's forever, right? Like that is a major benefit there. But I just want to pull this conversation back for a second, and I posted a what some people might think it was a theoretical question, but I don't consider it a theoretical question. It is something that I have to discuss a lot behind closed doors, and I think it really brings the concerns to light about like what we're up against. A lot of what people say is don't use KYC services, and we've talked on this show a lot about the dangers of KYC and this information collection. And I mean, I personally think, like, especially if you're not using, you're not using CoinJoin after you use a KYC service, you're like extra vulnerable. But let's forget about all that for a second. Let's pretend you're an activist, or you're speaking to an activist in Malaysia, and I apologize. Myanmar. You're talking to an activist in Myanmar, Burma, and you have this military coup that happened, right? They're cutting the internet every night at curfew to make sure that their transgressions aren't getting released. They're doing active internet surveillance on dissidents, and you're cut off from the banking system. This is happening today. This exists today. We have protesters and activists on the ground there that aren't able to get money in. If Bitcoin seems like a natural ally in that type of fight, but if they open, the most common thing to say would be have them run a BTC Pay server, right? And they're running a BTC Pay server and they're accepting donations to that BTC Pay server. They're going to have so many little UTXOs that they have no idea where they came from. And to expect like an activist on the ground to be able to use prudent coin control in that kind of situation seems completely impossible. Like, am I wrong there? Like, is there a disconnect there? Like, what's your perspective on that?
I really like that question on Twitter, which you posted about you have this situation and what you recommend. And I mean, the consensus seemed to be, which I do agree as well, that, I mean, if you can use Lightning, I mean, it could be even custodial, right? If you are not exposing, if it's not KYC'd. But I mean, it has an online requirement. But you might as well do it, since like proposing a new address every time would need that kind of online requirement anyway. And And I know where this goes. And also there's a question in the chat about pay names, which do kind of deal with this, that you are providing a new address automatically, only communicating on chain, basically. The thing is, you have these outputs which now are in your wallet. And I mean, putting aside the concerns with pay names, that, how you recover the wallet, and how much it is compatible with implementations, etc. I mean, this is getting very technical. But when you're merging these transactions, you are in the same place, right? if you receive transactions through a pay name and you just take and merge them, how does it not connect the sources?
Right. Pay names have the same issue. Pay names
Yes,
solve.
exactly.
Pay names attempt to solve pay names alternatively. It's Bitcoin's version of stealth address, which Monero has implemented. I kind of want to see Liquid implement stealth addresses. It's weird that they haven't yet. I think that could be like a killer feature, but I digress. The key aspect is you should, and this is something that I hold very dear as a goal that I think I would love to see software developers focus on, besides Samurai, is this idea that you should be able to post a text string without any hosting requirements that allows people to pay you in a relatively private way on Bitcoin. And that's what Paynims attempts to solve, is this idea that like an activist who has a authoritarian government that's actively trying to destroy their way of life is going to be able to run a 24/7 BTC Pay server and manage liquidity constraints on Lightning is fucking out of never going to happen. Like, that is just not a realistic expectation. Can they post on their social media? Can they post a single text string? In this case, a Paynim name or a payment code, which is really the Paynim name links to a payment code. Yes, like that seems very reasonable to me. The main negative of Paynims is that they have this on-chain, it's on-chain. And so right now you have this notification transaction with current fees. I mean, you're talking $25, $30 just to activate that process, right? We just saw HRF just added Paynims. If you want to donate to HRF, you have to pay this first, you have to pay this notification transaction, which is going to get more and more expensive as Bitcoin pumps and as fees pump. And at the top of that, what you mentioned, OpenArms, you don't solve the after issue, right? You don't solve the issue that the activist is sitting on a ton of UTXOs, that they have to practice prudent coin control or go into CoinJoin at that point, right?
Yeah, one by one.
One by one. And anything that's underneath the lowest CoinJoin amount, they wouldn't be able to, unless Join Market, they could, right?
Exactly. No such thing in Join Market.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, as 6102 mentions, and also as I wanted to tell the next thing, is that you would need to have some kind of way to communicate your donation place. Let it be a website or an email or somewhere where people can ping you. I mean, you can just publish Bitcoin addresses, It
like
is
what Belcher does.
Yeah, exactly. It's so simple. You just need to have a website which on a click, maybe with some, spam protection, or like, you need to solve a captcha or something to query it. You just dump thousands of addresses from your wallet and you put it in a rolling basis.
But then you're still running a 24/7 server to serve them up.
Yeah, but the server's requirement is what? Is like, serving a text-based web page. That, I mean, you must be able to do that. Or that could be a Telegram bot, or it could be, I mean, it depends what kind of communication you are using, right?
But you see the significant advantage of something like a stealth address, right?
Yeah, that it is fixed. Yes.
You can just post, you can send out a single tweet. It just has your stealth address on it, and every person who pays you automatically gets a new derived address. It's
certainly much better than using just a fixed address, because that's the other alternative. There is not even a question. You cannot stop merging everything which comes to the same address. obviously. But then, yeah, I mean, that is not a good solution, but that was so far the way people did it, right?
I mean, custodial lightning, you mentioned that, is fucking great in terms of privacy. I mean, it's not great for trust. It's custodial privacy is what it is. I mean, you're trusting whatever the custodian is with your privacy instead. And also regulators are just going to crush that shit. But it is an interesting point that you made, because I think Bitcoin's privacy shortcomings were kind of hidden in the early days because we had so many custodial services. And then we made this push to self-custody, which is great, but it comes with this privacy trade-off, right? Like if you use the custodial service, the on-chain footprint issue is solved ish.
Yeah.
No Power, what's your opinion here? Donations, activists, did you agree with me that this should be like the most obvious Bitcoin use case?
I agree that there is a problem that stealth addresses address. And actually two problems, right? One is, how do you accept donations privately? And as OpenOM said, there might be other ways, like how Chris Belcher does it. But the other big benefit of stat addresses is the user experience, right? Like you basically save one round trip with another person, because they don't have to give you your address, because you already know how to communicate value to them. So yes, I'm not sure what way it will end up being. I mean, I hope this will be a standard at one point in the future. I'm just not sure what standard will here be. And I would like to even go further and bring pay to endpoint into the conversation, because pay join, in my mind at least, is just one application of pay to endpoint. Because what pay to endpoint really means is that you have a peer-to-peer channel, communication channel with another person. So just if I would have to write something today regarding this, then what I would do is I would just let users to pass around Tor addresses and then communicate there. And the problem with that, of course, that what if the other person is not online? And my answer to that solution is that answer to that problem is that I don't think we have to address that problem, because everyone's gonna be online. I'm not sure, maybe it takes 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 50 years, but at one point in the future, in our lifetime, everyone's going to be always online. So that should not be a problem, I think.
Do you not see, like, in a hostile environment, PayJoin has the same issue? Like in a hostile environment, to expect someone to run a server 24/7 in a private way, because it's a way greater ask to expect them to be able to do that without completely doxing themselves. And we already see it happening, where if you try and use any kind of professional server, unless you're using like fucking keto miners, dope ass fucking pay Bitcoin with no KYC whatsoever, we see creeping KYC happening on all of these server providers.
Sorry, I wasn't clear. So what I wanted to say is that I think we are gonna be online not with servers, but with our laptops and our mobile phones. They're gonna be online all the time, and we won't have this problem of having to set up a server.
Right. I mean, Tor helps in that regard, right? Because Tor, you can actually, in a relatively private way, host some kind of page or something directly from
Exactly.
your device without a server. I just wanted to show real quick on the screen. This is from NetBlocks, which tracks internet freedom around the world. And this is the Myanmar government turning off internet every night. They turn off the internet every fucking night for the last 18 days. They've been doing it. Like this is not a theoretical thing. And it's going to become more and more common that when there's protest movements, the internet's going to get cut. Do we agree on this?
Of course.
Yes, I mean, the more or less connected a society to start with, the bigger problem it is, of course. I mean, you will have like satellite mesh networks, ham radios, etc. But yeah, of course, it is a problem. You need to be able to publish, like, again, this is now getting into a difficult UX question. But again, PGP signatures come into mind here. That if you can verify, if you publish, across many different media or like social networks kind of thing, signed messages with Bitcoin addresses that, this is the donation address of that kind of organization needing donations, and then you can verify it, and you can see also if it was used or not. I mean, it's not ideal because you would yes, an adversary would just be able to collect all of these addresses and obviously
it doesn't give you any real privacy benefit over just posting a static fixed address. I mean, it's not obvious on chain. At least the attacker would have to actively pull them, right?
Yeah, that's the only benefit. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, a single address does come into play here as well. But yeah, a state address would be advantageous. But also, what is the so how many times, when you donate someone, are you intending to donate monthly or like weekly? No, you usually just send a one-off transaction, right? So, okay. I mean, I know that there is a proposal now improving BIP47 which would require no notification transaction, but then it would need this Tor channel, which Nopara was mentioning, which would need to communicate with the senders. So either online or you need to communicate on chain only.
Well, you could have like a coordinator, just like we do for the Chaumian and coinjoins. You could have like a blinded coordinator that's serving up instead of the notification transaction, right?
Well,
you see what I'm saying? Like the activist doesn't necessarily need to be online in that scenario. They could just be, as long as regulators are fine, and it seems like it's everyone's walking a very tight rope here, but it seems like regulators are fine with these blinded coordinators. As long as they're fine with blinded coordinators, then presumably we could have a blinded BIP47 coordinator.
Well, I mean, I'm no expert on this, but it's probably things which like DLCs come into mind as well, that you might just use an oracle tweaking or sorting your address without it knowing it at all. But this is not available at the moment, or I wouldn't know how to set it up for sure.
Okay, this has been great so far. I want to keep the conversation moving. I have a bunch of topics I want to hit on the Scratchpad. CoinJoin flagging. We're seeing this happen more and more. BlockFi now is like leading the way in like the most draconian screenshots. I mean, what is it? The BlockFi prohibited transactions screenshot that is circulating. I'll put it on the screen in a second. This idea that we have these regulated companies that are flagging CoinJoin usage both on deposits and withdrawals. Some are doing it only in deposits. Some are only doing it on withdrawals. CoinJoin is obvious on chain. It's very obvious on chain by design. What is your guys' perspective here? Should we expect, like, I pretty much now I'm operating under the expectation that I just expect every single regulated entity to just not accept them. And that's coming from a person who's every stat I hold has CoinJoin history. So It's not FUD.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's same here. I think, currently, just to be clear, this is always, to my knowledge, an overreach from the side of the provider. There is no legal requirement to flag coinjoins because they are only missing the history. They not, I mean, at most of the cases, they don't have. It's like not taint in the classical sense that you have been paying a darknet market before and the transactions are connected, but it's just the fact that you want it to be private, and there is no requirement to not accept these kind of transactions, because as I've said in the beginning, if we wouldn't do this, then we are coming to such a state of surveillance which have ever been seen before, and we certainly wouldn't want to be the part of that. So these services, I think, just avoid them. There is no reason to use any of these.
No power. What's your opinion here?
I have many, not even sure which ones to start with.
Well, we have time.
If we want to boil down the whole issue to one question, then the question is, should seeking privacy be considered suspicious? And well, unfortunately, the answer for many of these services is that yes. However, or maybe not however, but as far as I can see it, there is no solution to this, no technical solution to this, but only social solutions. Because if you think about it, let's use Monero, right? That's the first answer. Well, if you're using Monero, then you are privacy seeking, so you should not be in that service, so they decide to not even implement it. That's a problem. So maybe advertise Monero in a way that it's for never mind. Okay, so what else do we have here? We have coinjoins which are obvious on chain, and that nothing's gonna fix that. We have PayJoin and CoinSwap. Those are different things. Actually, PayJoin is a kind of CoinJoin, but in the sense they are the same things, because what PayJoin does is it joins your history in the eyes of blockchain analysis with another person. And what CoinSwaps do is it swaps your history with another person. So, well, it's not obvious that CoinSwap or PayJoin happened. But the problem is that if you're swapping with the wrong person, that's again a problem. So I don't. Oh, and there is Lightning Network. Actually, the Electrum developer said in a conference a couple of years ago that Lightning Network shouldn't even be called Lightning Network. It should be called the Dark Network, because it's just it's basically a social solution to the is privacy should be suspicious, that you can say, well, I'm transacting with Lightning because I want it cheap and I want it fast. But on the other hand, I mean, there were Lightning Network, know your customer, and similar things are already coming up.
I mean, I think we're gonna see. I'm not trying to it's super frustrating. I do it to myself. I'm a little bit of a masochist. I like talking about the hard topics. So I tend to have, I tend to dive right into every single drama topic. So I get chirped at all the time. But I do expect, I think we're going to watch Lightning we're going to watch regulated companies try and capture the fuck out of Lightning, and the governments that they report to try and capture the fuck out of Lightning. Like I'm talking about, you know, pub keys that are whitelisted versus pub keys that are blacklisted, like big documents, you know, databases of who's using what, channel capacities, all this different stuff. But I do agree that, you know, Lightning has significant privacy improvements that could be taken advantage of there. I do think two things here that I think I'm kind of curious on your opinion of from both of you is the first thing is, I think ultimately my expectation is that regulated entities are going to basically at least discourage self-custody across the board, if not completely not allow it, right? And we already see that happening with services like Robinhood or PayPal, where you can't withdraw. They might allow you to deposit, but they won't let you withdraw Bitcoin and hold it yourself. I think that's the natural end goal if we have any kind of Bitcoin. As it becomes easier to use Bitcoin privately, the natural end goal is going to be that they're just going to try and cut it off, and they're just going to try and make it so regulated entities only let you have numbers on a screen and pay approved people, pay approved merchants, yada, yada, yada. The second thing, I feel like we should reframe this whole discussion. I don't think the fact that CoinJoin is obvious on chain is this massive negative. I mean, the standard for protecting speech is encryption. If you use encryption, if I send open arms an encrypted message, it is absolutely obvious to anyone watching that message that we're using encryption. They don't know what the contents of the message are, but they absolutely know that we're using encryption. How is that any different than them absolutely knowing we're using CoinJoin? But, you know, if the implementation works well, they can't tell this, you know, the history of the funds. How is that any fucking different?
That's exactly the same, right? It's the question of should seeking privacy be considered suspicious, and the best way would be that if seeking privacy would be the default, then no one could be able to make this argument, right?
Open arms. What's your perspective here?
Well, I agree that you know, Lightning, paying with Lightning does have much better values here, because you just don't see, there is no way to see where the sets are coming from. So the sets on Lightning are much more fungible. And this is because you would need active real-time surveillance to probe all the public channels. And even then you wouldn't be able to see. Maybe you could estimate where, you know, which was the first public channel where the payment was coming from. But as adoption increases, as the number of payments increases, as we introduce, you know, some kind of things which do fail payments randomly, for example, or like, you know, automatic rebalances and things, they do change the picture so often and unpredictably that this is, you know, this is not really realistic. It's just very good to, you know, have these articles researching it, and, you know, I love to read them, but also it is to see the pain points and, you know, be able to work more on it. So Lightning is I see it as a solution, at least to spend. But then the same thing applies, that if you don't allow CoinJoin payments or CoinJoin funds to be deposited, then you wouldn't allow Lightning deposits either. And we can see it, this, for example, with the with BottlePay, who is like, you know, came to the UK market straight on, and in a couple of days they started to block CoinJoins because they probably, you know, did the wrong. I mean, yeah, I didn't go into that why, but it's a bad thing. And they allow Lightning deposits, but it's very limited. Like you can, like a couple of pounds you can deposit only, right? So obviously it's the same thing. If there is there is a thing which could be private, or let's see that, you know, why would anyone allow Monero deposits if they don't allow CoinJoin payments and Lightning deposits either. So it's the same problem. We need
So
to step up and
can I steelman that for a second?
Okay.
Well, first of all, disclosure, I am an advisor of Bottle Pay and have a small equity position as a result in that.
Congrats.
That is not that agreement has no endorsement or paid promotion involved in it. My goal is to try and make that product as possible. So I want that to be aware. Obviously I disagree with their idea to block CoinJoin deposits. I literally cannot use the service, besides the fact that it's UK only, but I could not use the service to deposit funds into because of my CoinJoin history. So I want to steelman your thing about, so I say this all the time too. I agree. The ultimate end goal is like, if a service is going to discriminate against something that is privacy preserving deposit, they're going to do it across the board. A Monero promoter would tell you though, and they've told me many times, and it's actually a very valid point, I think, and I'm curious on your opinion, is Kraken's a perfect example. Kraken has accepted Monero deposits for years now. Also, at the same time, they have active contracts with chain surveillance firms where they are discriminating against user deposits, right? They're like checking Bitcoin history, but at the same time accepting Monero deposits. So is that true? Are we correct in that regard? Or is it just like a low time preference thing? Like it'll happen eventually, it just hasn't happened yet?
Well, look, Bitfinex does allow KYC-free Lightning deposits to no limit. And you can withdraw Bitcoin as well if you pay the fee. You can even withdraw liquid, or you can do the other ways around to deposit liquid or Lightning and withdraw or liquid. Yeah, so any combination, right? You don't even need to KYC for it. But that doesn't prove the point that if you are allowed, and we don't step up to stop, if we allow people or governments to strip us from our rights to be private, then we are in the Orwell 1984. And, that is not acceptable. And that's not because the technology is flawed, but because that's what the regulators put on us.
Ultimately, there is maybe only one solution that I can see, is that we build better shit, we build better software, and we outcompete them. And if we are right about that, users are going to choose our solutions because we are better, then they are going to choose our solutions, and privacy becomes the norm and not a crime.
Yeah, need to continue to maximize the ability to do peer-to-peer transactions freely as in freedom. And then, we can oppose the regulators because we don't need to use the services. We don't need to participate in KYC. I don't even need to consider sending CoinJoin UTXOs to the exchange because I don't use exchanges. And
right,
either.
A lot of new coiners find it hard to believe, but I have literally never deposited any Bitcoin into any regulated service ever, period. And I have no intention to ever do that in the future. It's an exit. You have to exit the system. But do you agree here? Well, I guess, do you agree that there's like a sense of urgency here? Like, I feel like there's a sense of urgency. Like, we need Bitcoiners to be aware of this shit. They need to be aware of it yesterday, and we need to increase adoption. I'm about to pull up this is Kraken. They have shitcoin issues, but Jesse Powell, the Kraken founder, has been very outspoken about information collection and being against that and pushing back against government overreach. And in that regard, they lead the way with their information disclosures in terms of how much information is asked from governments. So I'm putting on the screen for the people who are watching live or watching the video version. This is their law enforcement requests. It's a fucking issue, man. Like, this is crazy.
Well, yeah, you shouldn't expose yourself to this, and raising awareness of it and explaining why it is important. I think I try to do, for example, like regular tweets about what's the value in coin joins, and I do believe that fungible coins are more valuable, the ones which are traceable and tied to an identity, and not because one you can sell on an exchange, another one not, but because the fungible ones you can spend as you like without exposing your history and exposing your position and privacy.
I think Matt is coming back to the same similar topic all the time, which is, I think there is a conflict between some developers who acknowledge that trusted third parties are a security risk, and so we should stay as far away from them as possible and not do anything. But on the other hand, celebrities are posting about Bitcoin. Elon Musk is bringing up bringing in a flood of new users, and if you think about it that way, then sure, trusted third parties are security risk, but how can you maximize the good that you can do? And that would be like trying to build user-friendly applications that, well, at first, make sure it's non-custodial. Hopefully, I think that's a good line there. The other thing is try to improve the privacy of your users. What else do we have? Oh yeah, the people at the Lightning Network, they want to fix the scaling issue. And the last front here, which no one really talks about anymore, is that decentralize the miners, because we kind of lost that war at this point. So yeah, there is a sense of urgency, right? And if we consider that we don't touch any trusted third party, we don't consider them at all, then you don't maximize the good that you can do in the world. However, just solely on the blacklisting list issue, I believe if we build stuff into our software that is considering the blacklisting, then that's the lowest level where we can build stuff into and acknowledge the blacklisting issue, and that's how you lose it.
I mean, look, I 100% agree. We've said this on the show a million times. Trusted third parties are security holes. You want to use trust minimized services as much as possible. Anyone who uses the word trustless is probably acting in bad faith, because there's very few things in our life that actually have zero trust whatsoever. But there is an interesting disconnect between Bitcoin Twitter and the real world, where we see the overwhelming majority of privacy-seeking Bitcoin users, especially before Wasabi existed, but even now, choose to go with custodial mixers, which have, obviously, like they've been accused of being honeypots in the past. You have to have complete trust in them, but they 100% break the transaction graph. So I would. There's a nuanced argument here, and OpenArms kind of said it on his own, right? And someone said in the comments, I think it was Keto Miner said in the comments, wallet of Satoshi, like a custodial wallet, provides a level of privacy that that breaks that transaction graph, but then you have to trust that entity, right?
Yeah, you know, that's a huge mystery for me, because you asked me what I learned, and one of the assumptions that I had when launching Wasabi is that, you know, it's just like custodial mixers. It's just does not need a third party trust, and it's non-custodial. And you know, I thought that, well, I'm gonna launch Wasabi and everyone's gonna come right away and start using it, but that didn't happen. It took like a year to get a decent volume at Wasabi, and the custodial mixers are still the majority of the
Like it's not
the
even close,
majority of the
right?
users.
They have way more volume.
Exactly. Actually, I did calculations. I don't know if they are correct, but back then my calculations were that if we have 100 people in the CoinJoin, then taking the custodial mixer volume, we would be able to do 100 people CoinJoin in every 3 to 5 minutes. Well, we are not there.
Open arms, do you have an opinion on this disconnect? Like, I feel like there's like a massive disconnect between like the users and the you know, the so-called Bitcoin fanatics, like you called them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how we can prove the volume on custodial mixers. I mean, wouldn't that be just so-called like wash mixing, so-called? You know, you just
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, look, if we're gonna be frank, we can't really definitively prove the volume of any of these tools, because there is an incentive that is built into these centralized coordinated coin joins to inflate volumes, and you can absolutely you can absolutely inflate volumes on join market as well, right? But if you look at like Bitcoin Talk signatures and stuff, or Bitcoin Talk conversations, Dread, like you look at the forums, you look at like the darknet market forums and stuff. People don't realize like the first custodial mixer, the first really widespread used custodial mixer was Silk Road, right? You see the users talking about it. People are using it.
yeah, because it's easy.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is just how small, but incentive to participate. I mean, you know, I feel that with the Lightning Network as well as with join market, that you can, without giving up custody of your funds, you can participate in something which you can I think it is beneficial, either like providing liquidity on the Lightning Network for routing and people to pay through, or for CoinJoin liquidity in join market, and you can actually make some satoshes out of it. It is a good feeling, and it also, you know, happens because you have this, people have this mindset that your money should do something, right? That comes from the fiat mindset, obviously, from an inflationary currency. But there are these things which you can do without giving up the custody and security of your funds, and even you can, I mean, for both things, you get some usefulness out of it. If you have your funds on Lightning, you have basically the most liquid way of having Bitcoin around in your custody, and in CoinJoin, even as a maker, as a liquidity provider, you are increasing the privacy of your funds.
Well, so just to be clear here, so 612 asked me, or asked all of us in the live chat, what is the incentive to inflate join market volume? I didn't mean to really. So the incentive for coordinated coin joins like Wasabi and Samurai is to make it seem like there's more people using it, and then those coordinators make more in fees. And in Wasabi, there's actually, because the fees scale up with the more inputs in a coin join, there's actually a reverse incentive where if they were to increase the volume, they would make more in fees in addition to just making it perceived more common. With join market, that's not the case because you don't have a centralized coordinator. You have this maker taker structure. What I meant is, I didn't mean to imply that there's an incentive to inflate join market numbers. What I meant to say is that the volume numbers should be treated as an upper bound, because you can let's run through a hypothetical. A hypothetical being a major chain surveillance firm that is valued at $3 billion is providing maker liquidity on join market to have a better insight on what's happening over there. And they're also running a taker bot that runs through the maker to make it seem like more people are using join market, so people feel more comfortable and come over there and end up using them as a maker. So it should always be treated as the upper bound. It should not be treated as a hard number. It should be treated as, okay, we know there's not more than this volume. There could be as much as this volume, but it's probably somewhere below that. Would you agree? Both of you?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. It's just, you know, obviously this entity would end up paying random makers, money, which is, I mean, you know, they got the service because they paid for it. Obviously, this is not good. But then you would, you don't need to be closed into one of the, gardens of one solution to this. Not speaking of like one CoinJoin implementation, and also not speak about one privacy technique, right? You can combine all these. I do think there's the best is to CoinJoin and go to Lightning, and then when you go out from Lightning because you close the channel with a balance, you go back to CoinJoin, and then again you only have to open another channel when you have CoinJoin those funds. And you know, it's just you need to jump between these things.
No,
It's like I
Para.
said, yeah.
No one really talks about this. Do you agree with me that there's a broken incentive? Like I believe you guys are. I love your team. I don't think I would never call you a spook. I don't like that these things always devolve into personal attacks. But do you agree with me that that as a coordinator in the Wasabi implementation, the coordinator is able to, they have a broken incentive where if they inflate the volume numbers, if they run their own funds through Wasabi, the fees are increased?
So I actually would like to go even deeper into this topic with you because if so I was trying to familiarize myself with your views, and if I'm not mistaken, then this topic is your main criticism of Wasabi. Is that correct?
My main criticism is that mixed with the fact that I think the user defaults, which we touched on earlier, I think the user defaults are not adequate. Like I feel like when I onboard someone onto Wasabi, I have to tell them like a bunch of best practices that they have to change after they get onboarded.
Oh, all right. So let's stick with maybe this topic at first, and then we'll see where we are going from here. So let me see. Maybe I just bring up a few statistics that may be relevant later.
No, I mean, before we get there, just like really quick, like Wasabi fees are based on the number of inputs in a round, right? They scale up. If it's 100 UTXO round, it's more expensive for the user than if it's a 25 UTXO round, right?
Exactly.
And the fees are paid to the Wasabi coordinator, which is the coordinator itself. So obviously it's not providing Sybil resistance to the coordinator itself, unless on-chain fees are high. I'll give you that. But on-chain fees have not been high in the past.
Oh, okay, so that's where we are diverging. Okay, because I agree with you that there is an economical incentive for the coordinator to participate, but I do not agree with the implications there. But anyhow, because it's. Would you like to say something else?
No, I'm not. I'm letting you speak. I just it's not that I'm not trying to accuse you of doing it. I'm just saying that, that's what makes it a trust minimized service rather than something that's trustless. I mean, you have to, like, we're trusting that you're not sibling your own rounds.
Okay, so would you mind explaining what do you mean by Sibyl attack?
I mean, filling the rounds with your own UTXOs to increase the fees of your own rounds, right? Because the historically, as a user of Wasabi, I paid you a large amount in CoinJoin fees, and those CoinJoin fees are significantly higher than the on-chain fees I paid. It's not even close. Like that, like when the on-chain fees flip the CoinJoin fees, then that's a proper incentive. And I think that will happen in the future. It just has not happened yet.
All right. So the intuition there is, if you think about it, let's say 99 honest users and one coordinator peer. And the question is, does it make sense to add the coordinator peer there? Would we get more money out of the coin joins than what we put in, right? That's the question.
Right. Yes.
And the answer is yes. We would get more money out of the coin join if we would participate. Okay, so let's look at the lower end here, which is there is only one honest user. So would it make sense for us to add the coordinator peer?
What do you mean?
I mean, if there is one honest user, does it make sense the coordinator to coin join with that honest user?
Well, I mean that is.
The user pays for it, right?
What was that, Open Arms?
The user pays for it, of course it would.
Yeah, it'd still be worth it. You still make money.
The coordinator also pays network fees.
Right. If network fees go up, which they have been recently, then all of a sudden the incentive starts working itself out. But historically, and also the other thing is, if rounds are routinely full, if they're hitting the 100 UTXO cap, you're leaving fees on the table if you try and come in. But both of those things haven't been the case. The other thing is, this is not just Wasabi. This is not just your coordinator. There are other coordinators that you can use with Wasabi. All those coordinators have the broken incentive to inflate their own volume.
Okay, I just want to go exactly precisely into what is it incentivizing for, because it's not that hard. And if you think about it, average network fees per user in Wasabi coin joins in the last month was $2, and the coordinator fee per participant per anonymity set is $0.16. So what we can get out of this is that 99 honest peers all pay $0.16 for one more coordinator peer, right?
You're implying that the network fee is more expensive than the CoinJoin fee.
Oh, no. I'm implying exactly what are the network fees here and what are the CoinJoin fees.
If a user uses Wasabi, the CoinJoin fee is the significant expense. Is the fee I pay you is significantly more expensive than the fee I pay the Bitcoin miners, right?
I'm not sure that's the case, but I don't think that's relevant.
That is the crux of the incentive issue. Look, I want to be absolutely clear here. Any centralized coordinated coin join, in my mind, does not provide Sybil resistance against the coordinator. If the coordinator wants to attack you, the coordinator can do so at minimal cost because they don't have to pay the coin join fee regardless. My issue is that in the way Wasabi is implemented currently, there is actually even worse than that, because there's a direct financial incentive for the coordinator to increase for the coordinator to push their own volume through the system.
Yes, exactly. It's just not a civil incentive, but because do you understand why it doesn't make sense for the coordinator to participate if only one honest user there is, because the coordinator pays more network fees than how much the user would pay for coordinator fees?
I don't think that's the case. I think the coordinator fees outpace the network fees currently.
No, I see what you mean, but this is an extreme example of having just one honest user. But let's say we have 50 honest users, and you have 50 from the coordinator, then you would increase the reward with 50 times, right?
Significantly. Even if you weren't trying to de-anonymize them, you're just trying to make money. You're just trying to print money.
Exactly, that's where I'm going with it, right? Like first we gotta examine the 99 honest peers plus one coordinator peer, and one more coordinator peer would add $0.16, get $0.16 from every honest peer. So that's 99 times 0.16. Okay, and on the other end, when there is only one honest user, then we also established it doesn't make sense the coordinator to join in. So somewhere in between, it makes sense. Can you guys follow?
Yeah.
Look, my point is I think as on-chain fees increase, that provides a natural civil defense to these centralized coordinators. It just has not been the case so far. I think a fixed fee to enter a CoinJoin liquidity pool is a way better incentive in this scenario, because increasing volume doesn't get you more in fees, period. I think as a Wasabi user who paid significant amount of sats to you guys, like I don't even want to go back and count how much Bitcoin I paid you guys. Like I paid you guys a lot of fucking Bitcoin to provide me privacy improvement. That was based on a perceived anon set. Okay. It was based on how many people were in my round. And all of a sudden there's this incentive that's been there from the beginning that the coordinator can be adding to that perceived anon set when it's really not. I'm not actually getting any privacy gain from that, but I'm paying for it. And then on top of that, the average user, because of the way the defaults are set up, are going and they're ruining their forward privacy, which ruins my anon set going forward, right? So if let's say I have 30 honest peers, and those 30 honest peers, 15 of them send their funds into BlockFi, and 5 of them send it to OpenArm's mom, and then like 2 send it to someone else. Like all of a sudden my anon set is like 3, and I don't even fucking know. I have no fucking idea. It degrades rapidly, and I'm paying a premium for it. Does that issue not make sense?
I'm not sure I'm following.
So to be a little bit more productive, Wasabi 2.0 is coming out hopefully in the next like 6 months, right? Or 8 months. When do we expect Wasabi 2.0? It doesn't matter. Wasabi 2.0 is coming as soon as possible. With Wasabi 2.0, I'm going to try and do a high level description. Tell me if I'm wrong. Users come in, they go and they basically exchange their Bitcoin for like a momentary token that is managed by the coordinator blindly, and then they can apply that token to future transactions, right? Is that a good high level description of Wasabi 2.0? What?
So this happens I'm sorry. There are just a lot of topics glossing over, and but it happens within a coinjoin. I'm not sure that's what you meant. Not future transactions, but this happens within one coinjoin.
What I'm trying to ask is what is the fee structure in Wasabi 2.0? Is the Wasabi fee structure the same as Wasabi 1.0, or is it a fixed fee? What is it changed at all?
So it has to be changed because the system is completely different. Also, because of the fee incentive, we did not succeed to go too much into. And also because we would like to create, to enable sharing the revenue with other services who are building on top of the Wasabi daemon. And unfortunately, I can't say how exactly these fees will be because I'm not 100% convinced that there is an anonymous way to share revenue. And so that's very important in terms of how the fees would be there, right? So it's not figured out at this point, but definitely has to change for multiple reasons.
Okay. Can you give us like a high level high level kind of description of the goal of Wasabi 2.0? Like how it works, a high level kind of explain it like we're a Bitcoin fanatic. I don't have to be 5 years old. I just need to have like a high level kind of discussion here.
Sure. So it's going to work like a normal Bitcoin wallet, except that when you're sending transactions, you are always sending mixed coins, except when you did not have the time to mix them. And it does not ask you to manually mix, but the privacy things are happening all in the background. So basically a normal Bitcoin wallet with a couple of tweaks regarding how we were able to replace coin control, but not exactly the same way as other wallets are doing it. But yeah, for example, the cluster selection or the change avoidance. But like a normal Bitcoin wallet, it's privacy by default, right?
Yeah, I mean, so like my like kind of understanding of it is like almost like you get a share of whatever the round is, and then you can apply that share outside. You can apply that share however you want. So you can come out with you can come in with different amounts, and you can come out with different amounts than having like equal output coin joins. Is that correct?
All right. So the amount organization is also something we did not fully fleshed out, but we fleshed out in a way that I'm comfortable with, to a point that I'm comfortable with it, even if it would be rolled out as it is, as far as we figured out, but others want to do some other stuff. Never mind. But how this works is that you come in with arbitrary input amounts, and you can come with multiple inputs or only one input, doesn't matter, and you can break them in any way, shape, or form, except for privacy. You don't break them in any way, shape, or form. But what we found is the most blockchain efficient solution that we came up with is that every user looks at every other user's inputs, and based on those inputs, they randomly generate a bunch of solutions with a bunch of denomination systems like powers of 2, powers of 3, preferred value series, but they are generating randomly a bunch of solution, and one of the solution will be submitted to have their outputs, and this resulted in pretty good anonymity sets, like around. It's variable, so sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 20. It depends, but we don't really have changes anymore, and we are able to mix all the inputs in one go, and there is no minimum denomination. So it's actually pretty cool, and we worked very hard on that for 1.5 years. So yeah, it's like, I think this is how far coinjoins can potentially go if you don't consider all these kind of crazy things like coinjoins, coin swaps and coinjoins, or lightning channel openings and coinjoins, because those obviously complexify many things. But as far as on-chain mixing, with a couple of outputs, no changes generated, arbitrary inputs. That's what Wasabi 2.0 can do right now.
What do we have to? What kind of, and Obanoms, feel free to jump in here. What kind of trust model is this? Like, what are we trusting the coordinator with? Is it almost like a little bit custodial while you're in that process, where the Wasabi 2.0 coordinator can take money?
No, you're not trusting at all the coordinator.
You're just matching all the UTXOs in the wallet and trying to find with an algorithm which would be the best kind of denominations to put in the coin joins, right?
Yeah, exactly. Based on other users' inputs, you're guessing, so you don't know exactly how much anonymity you will get out, but chances are you will get out. There will be other users guessing similar ways than you based on your inputs and other user inputs. So yeah.
Do you think that, is there any trust required in the coordinator in Wasabi 1.0?
There are some minima trust issues when we are adding like 2 inputs to a mix from the same user. Then there is trust required. It obviously doesn't happen normally, but in edge cases it does. No, not really anything else I can come up with.
Well, I would say the big one is exactly what I said earlier, right? Is that you have no Sybil resistance from the coordinator. Do we not agree on this?
I mean, yeah, sure. We can go deep with this, because I did some calculations, and if you would like, then I can tell you exactly that what it is incentivizing at.
Sure. Let's dive in.
My previous example was okay. By the way, that 99 pairs, it makes sense to add 1 coordinator pair. 1 pair, it doesn't make sense to add 1 coordinator pair, because coordinator P is more network fees. It makes sense.
Right, but in practice, that's not the case, right? In practice, you'll have like 40 honest, maybe you'll have like 10 or 15 coming from, a single entity, and then you also have. So, what about remixing? Do we think that users should remix? Should they do 1 round? Is 1 round all right?
Is this connected to the previous conversation somehow?
No, not really. I mean, it's connected in that I think Wasabi anonymity sets are overstated. You overpay for them based on the anonymity set, and then they degrade rapidly. So I think that all users should remix. Are we all on the same page on this, or?
I'm kind of jumping. Sure. I mean, depends on the users, right?
I guess the issue that I'm coming from is that I feel like the default of 51 for the Anon set has always been way understated. Like it's just dangerous default. Like people should default to at least 2 mixes. At least a couple people should be remixed. Like at least some people in the fucking round should be remixing, if not everybody. Right?
Yeah, I mean, 25% is remixing, right?
But then why is the default 51? If that's just one round. And most times it's just a single round 51.
Oh, because it's expensive, right?
So we should have, so does Wasabi 2.0 incentivize remixing? Does it make it so that a user doesn't have to pay more money to have remixes?
I mean, you're paying the network fees, which are not insignificant.
Right. That's unavoidable. But I'm talking about on the CoinJoin fee structure.
Should we change? Okay, are we not incentivizing remixing right now?
I don't think so, because the default is 51, which is usually just a single round, and you have to pay significantly more to continue to remix, right? You just said it yourself. You said it's more expensive to remix.
If you put in, let's say, let's keep it simple, 0.1 Bitcoin, and when you're remixing that 0.1 Bitcoin, then you don't pay the whole coordinator fees. You only pay as much as you have, which is a few satoshis left. In this case, you get a perfect mix.
But then if that's the case, then why is the default in Wasabi 51 instead of, a couple mixes? Like at least one. So like if I go back to what I said earlier, it's like when I'm trying to onboard people and I'm talking about Wasabi, I'm like, okay, so then after you install it, like go into settings, switch it to at least 101 so that you're guaranteed at least one remix. Do you agree that that's best practice?
I mean, it depends on who, right? I would not keep remixing forever, that's for sure.
I'm not saying forever, I'm saying at least once.
I think I would be okay with a single mix, for example. But, like you're remixing, right? Like the 50 anonymity set is not reached for all your coins. It's only reached for 0.1 Bitcoin, and the rest you're still remixing. And if you start with 0.8, then you will have a couple of anonymity set on a 0.2 coin and on a 0.4 coin, right? So when you're putting that into the mix, because that does not reach the 50 anonymity set in the first round, then you are remixing.
But do you think? Can I have a question? Do you? From my understanding, multiple mixes on the same output, not talking about the other bigger remaining output, is more efficient in terms of gaining anonymity than adding peers to one mix. So what I'm trying to say is that mixing twice with 50 peers is reaching more than once with 100 peers.
I agree with that. No Power, do you agree with that?
So that's a good question. I actually had some calculation. Let me see if I can remember that. So the question is basically similar to 10 people coin join versus 100 people coin join, right? That's
the
mathematical
even better example. Exactly. Yes. I don't think it's simply additive. I mean, it's not completely exponential either, but it's somewhere in between. So
Yeah,
multiple rounds are better than one big one, in my opinion.
yeah. So my point is that you can mathematically tell which is better, which is you're calculating the equal. I'm not sure, right? But well, I definitely had the calculations half a month ago or something like that for that. Yeah, sorry.
And you also presume then, if you are remixing, then others too, who you have been your peers. So, you know, the anon set does kind of branch out like that as well.
I mean, you're presuming with it doesn't matter for 10 people coinjoin versus 100 people coinjoin. Others are branching out from that anyway.
I mean, it's not the case if everyone is just doing one.
Oh yeah,
That's what
but
I'm
not
trying to say.
everyone is doing one, right? That's 25% of the mixes are remixes. So 25% is not doing that. They are remixing. These are not remixes of the changes of the non-mixed coins. These are remixes of the mixed coins.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that, but you know, they are paying for it, and they are not. You know, the system is not set up a way which would make them to do this. I mean, they have their personal choices, or they have like a higher target because they listen to Matt to put it to 101, or you know, or they just feel more comfortable with more mixes, and that's what it happens. It's not doesn't happen automatically, right? If I, for example, if I put my coins in join market, right? If I'm a taker, have a low time preference, and I do the mixes or running a tumbler with multiple mixes, including transactions which are not creating state change, and then I either, because I'm in a rush, I need to spend somewhere, or I leave my coins in there and continue as a maker and alternate these roles. And as a maker, I'm not paying anything, but still improving the anonymity set of my coins, right? So how is that is just so much better to me that I wouldn't even think of not using the chance of free mixing. And to be honest, this is the same bit if you are enter Whirlpool and do pay the fees to enter. You would just leave it as long as your time allows, or you are comfortable with having your funds in the hot wallet.
So when you say it's not incentivized, do you mean the default is different, or there is no financial incentive?
There is a incentive, right? Because you need to pay for it to continue. So it's cheaper for you to not continue.
It's cheaper than mixing non-mixed coins. Do you see how?
I see that, yeah. But that doesn't, I mean, yeah, I understand that it's true, but also I want to mix my non-mixed coins more than the mixed ones. So, I mean, that doesn't matter really. This is about if I want to increase the anonymity set or the kind of darkness or like model around my coins more. And I would like to
want to. What do you want to incentivize? Mixing non-mixed coins or mixing mixed coins?
No, it's clear that mixing non-mixed coins, it does cost a fee, but then you see that how the other implementations are set up in a way that you can continue mixing without paying. So you would do it.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I see that definitely. So you can continue mixing without paying. Well, other people are paying for it, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's not a good idea to not to not do the people to not make the people pay the network fees for various reasons. On the other hand, so if the suggestion is, should the coordinator somehow prefer or not ask anything from remixers, then I think that's a good suggestion. Sure, if that's what you guys mean.
Yeah, that would be, because that is a benefit from both. It's beneficial to participate to remix for both the ones who are remixing and also the new entrants, right? Because they have a higher anonymity set, so it would make sense to pay for it as a new entrant, and that payment can incentivize the people who are just there for the privacy. And now the question is if they take the coins out or stop the wallet, or just hang around a bit longer to gain more privacy.
Sure, but someone has to pay the network fees, and I don't think it should be. I think whoever uses the block space should pay the network fees, which is the long-term bottleneck, right?
I think what Open Arms is trying to get to, and is what I'm trying to get to, is that do we not agree that these tools should encourage remixing based on their structure and their defaults?
I'm not sure about that. I think it's very expensive to remix. I think the people who would like to remix a lot have a very specific reason to do that. So what should be the default should be the default to normal users, right?
If I used, which I did, if I used Wasabi in 2019 and I used the default and I got a 51 anon set, right? And it stopped automatically based on the default because I didn't change anything. I just trusted the default. Got my nice 51. I got my badge. Got the green check on it. And it just sat there. It's sat in my Wasabi wallet. I haven't moved it. What do we think the anon set is today? Significantly less than 51. Do we agree?
No. Yes. No. Okay. So it is less because other people are doing things that makes your UTX so more likely to coming from the source where you put it in from, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's a process it's an elimination process. So as people are coming out or doxing, going to KYC services, they do identify themselves. So if there are 50 people and 49 have identified themselves, then we know who is the 50th is.
Okay, so but on the other hand, and I think you guys talk about this or you met talk about this a lot, other people are remixing the coins. Those are exactly equal outputs to your coin, and those can go to many different places too, right? And those can be remixed too, and those can go to many different places. Now, I don't think this is a good argument there, but if you look at the academic terminology for anonymity set, then the anonymity set would be huge, like thousands, or I don't know how much, but huge, because exact same coins that could be yours go to other places in the coin join. Now this is where we should bring in probabilities, right? That it's unlikely, but if you take the anonymity set from an academic point of view, then it can be a lot more because of future mixes.
I mean, I agree that remixing helps. We just lost Open Arms. Hopefully he'll join back in. I agree that remixing helps. I wish it was incentivized rather than discouraged, so that would be more likely to be the case rather than having to just hope that people do it. I just want to be absolutely clear here that I appreciate all the work you put in to this very important topic as the one of the. I mean, it's a topic that I've dedicated a significant portion of my life to. So I do absolutely appreciate all the work you and the rest of the Wasabi devs have done. My goal ultimately is I just want these tools to be better. I think they're not perfect. I don't think this should be a controversial thing that they're not perfect.
Yeah, that's definitely. And you know, like when I wanted to go into the details of the coordinator fee economic incentives to participation, then I didn't try to trap you, right? Like it's a nuanced topic, and you know, I didn't think that much of it previously, but now that this debate was coming up, I actually sit down and did the calculations, and I got results, and I don't know. I mean, yeah. So I wasn't trying to trap you there.
Oh, we lost Open Arms again. He's back. Open Arms, everything all right over there?
No, I needed to switch to mobile net. My ISP has cut me off, it seems.
There we go. They're trying to stop this very important conversation. You know, Pomp would do some like a ridiculous tweet. Oh, they're trying to censor Citadel Dispatch. Please like and subscribe. Yeah, I look. I look forward to Wasabi 2.0. I hope that there's an incentive to remix there. I hope that users are encouraged to do it based on the implementation and the defaults. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to keep this conversation as actionable and productive as possible. And I feel like maybe we've hit like kind of a wall here. I do appreciate the insight. I guess, I don't know. Should we move on to another topic, or what are you guys thinking here?
So I think I just don't guide you through of my calculations, but maybe it's important that to just to say my conclusions, because is there a fee incentive for the Wasabi coordinator to participate? Yes, and it is definitely a problem. However, I don't think this leads to severe risk, and yeah, never mind. And I think I could even prove that there is no such civil attack on Wasabi. And you know, maybe the most important thing is that why. So if there is this fee incentive, why aren't we changing it? Maybe that's what you are most curious about. It's that, you know, how the fees are being collected and paid out is the most fundamental business agreement that we have with our users, and you know, unilaterally changing it without very good reason like Wasabi 2.0, I think it would not be a good idea, because like that's our most fundamental agreement with our users, and that opens up a lot of problems, you know.
Has the Wasabi team ever participated in their own Wasabi rounds?
We are mixing we are mixing the incomes, yes.
So you're mixing the fee revenue.
Yes, yes.
And that increases the user's fees every time you do that, right?
Well, not significantly, right? 0.16 per peer, and we are able to participate in, I don't know, 5% of the mixes. We are not, this is, we are a participant in the mix. It's not a coordinator Sybil attack, one jumping in with a single user for 5% of the mixes, right? Do you agree with that? Or do you think we should not use the Wasabi service at all?
I'm just trying to make a point specifically, but I mean, I don't think the word Sybil implies a motive. Like, I don't think, I think you could be a good actor and still be sibling. Do we agree on that? Like a Sybil attack, a Sybil is a very objective term, right? It's just you're participating in something and you're reducing the anon set because you know your own participation, right?
It implies that it's an attack on anonymity set in the context of coinjoins, right? It implies that it's an attack on privacy. Sorry, not anonymity set. I don't know why I said that. It's an attack on privacy. That would be Sybil.
But you could be a good actor and you could be inadvertently sibling. Do we not like is this not a thing? Like if I'm running 5 clients but I have no intention of de-anonymizing people, I'm still like 5 concurrent clients and I'm joining a round under the auspices that is 5 separate people, but it's really just me. That's a Sybil, regardless of the fact that I'm trying to de-anonymize people, right?
You could say that is a Sybil, but the consequences are not that anyone's privacy would meaningfully be hurt by that. So if you want to do a real Sybil attack, right? That's 10,000 fresh Bitcoin monthly. You would have to have that much money for a real Sybil attack. Assuming a real Sybil attack already happening, then you are bringing in 9,000 fresh Bitcoins monthly. Assuming that it's already happening and de-anonymizing users. Unless you are remixing all the time, right? Because if you're remixing all the time, then you don't have to bring 10,000 fresh Bitcoins monthly. It's okay to look at the daily volume, which is 300 Bitcoin. So from 300 Bitcoin, you can Sybil Wasabi if you're the kind of the only one who is. So, but the problem there is that then you should see very high remix numbers, like 95% or something crazy like that, but you do not. So the thing here is that the Sybil attack is actually noticeable. Unless the user
you keep quoting this 25% number. That 25% remix number is what a Sybil attack would look like, right?
So if less people are remixing, then if the remix number is not very close to 100%, then you must match the fresh Bitcoins coming to the mix in order to make it look like, no one is doing anything. So unless someone has 10,000 Bitcoin, new Bitcoins monthly, so that's 100,000 yearly, then there is no remix, except if the remix numbers are sorry, then there is no Sibyl, except if the remix numbers are high, because in that case, the daily volume would be enough because the confirmation target is about a day. So that's, you can use the coins.
The main reason the CoinJoin fee exists, not the network fee, the CoinJoin fee exists, is for Sybil resistance, correct?
No. That's for business purposes, right? The Sibyl resistance is hopefully coming from the network fees and the initial requirements.
So you think a coordinated CoinJoin implementation that has no CoinJoin fee, period, is Sybil resistant?
I think doing Sibyls on CoinJoins without coordinator fees are still very expensive.
I mean, I think they will be in the future, but they haven't really been historically. But I think developers of CoinJoin implementations should try and make it so a bad actor has to pay a bad actor who's attempting to Sybil has to pay more money than a good actor, an honest actor that is just attempting to gain privacy. Do we agree on this?
How do you know who is bad actor and who is honest actor?
I think you can set up an implementation so that if you're attempting to Sybil, it costs you more money. Let's say hypothetically it was possible, would you agree that that is a better situation to be in?
So I'm sorry, but the point of Sibyl attack is that make yourself look like then other honest peers. So that's like, there is a cognitive dissonance there, right? Because if you can differentiate between Sibyl and non-Sibyl, then you know that there is a Sibyl attack. You know what I mean? Or am I?
Well, what if you made it so if a user who joined a CoinJoin round with multiple UTXOs that were randomly selected to join a subsequent round, paid a smaller fee than someone who joined with concurrent instances. They're running a bunch of instances at the same time, and they're practicing Sybil type behavior rather than a user who's adding a majority of their UTXOs at the same time. Is that a better situation to be in?
So, sorry, let me repeat that. So a user so you could look at what kind of UTXOs are coming in the mixes, and you know that a user who is joining with multiple UTXOs. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm lost.
So a Sybil attack is when an attacker comes in and tries to be the majority of the participants, right? And then tries to use process of elimination to hurt the privacy of the other participants, right? So if, let's say at an extreme level, a Sybil attacker comes in and there are 95 of the 100 inputs, they can use that private knowledge that they're the 95 inputs to try and ruin the privacy of the remaining 5. It would behoove, to me, it makes sense that that if you're working on trying to create a CoinJoin tool, you should try and make that scenario more expensive than a scenario where the average user is coming in and they just want privacy and they just want to be one input, right? Like that should be the way these systems are set up. It's the number one attack that's used, right?
Okay, so if I have 100 Bitcoin, then what prevents me from breaking it down to small amounts?
That's the point, though. My point is in Wasabi, nothing. With Wasabi, if I'm running 100 instances that are mixing with each other, I pay the same fee as if I'm running one instance and just running my coins through it. It's the same exact fee,
Yes.
except for network fees, which I do
it's a
agree
bit-
add extra Sybil resistance when fees go up, but fees have barely gone up.
Well, you are paying coordinator fees after yourself too, like after your peers. So, but yeah, sorry, yeah.
But so is the honest user.
It is the same, yeah.
Open arms, what's up over there?
Yeah, I don't feel that comfortable paying by participant in this setup, but I don't know if we can solve the, yeah, you cannot guarantee the new entrants, right? I mean that is the question, because as 6102 have pointed it out, if we let people remix free, then, and that's what Nopara is saying as well, then the possible Sybil attack will become much more cheap, right? So unless you would have a guarantee in every round that the new participants need to be a set percentage, and then the remixing participants are chosen randomly. But that would be pretty much applying another implementation to Wasabi. So that's not the solution, I guess.
So what you may be able to do is if the coordinator has the whole blockchain and can work on that properly, then you should be able to make sure that the inputs that you accept into the coin joins are as disjointed on chain as possible. But yeah, I mean, you do some centralized mixing and that will break it. I maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm just going off tangent here. But I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, because sibling is expensive even in non even in scenarios when no one is trying to prevent them. The volume is the main obstacle there, that you have to match the honest users' bitcoins with yours, and that's how you can get the anonymize them. If you can't match the honest users' bitcoins, then I don't know, it's got messy.
I mean, except for the coordinator.
Well, the coordinator has to match the honest users' bitcoins.
The coordinator is getting paid more money.
But it has to have that much money to match the. Okay, assume the coordinator is bringing in $10,000. 10,000 Bitcoin monthly. Then does it really make sense to mess around with a few dollars of fee incentive, like executing this attack, if the coordinator has hundreds of thousands of times more money already? Then why would he want to do this attack, right?
I just once again, I just want to reset a little bit, and just, I appreciate you coming on the show. I look at this as more than just a podcast. Like, I think this is like kind of, we're all trying to just learn together. I almost think of it as like a global classroom. So I appreciate you coming on and just talking through all this shit with us. I appreciate Open Arms coming on, obviously, as well. And I think it's an important discussion that should just continue to be had. Like, I want these discussions to be had publicly. But I do kind of feel there's a disconnect. I don't know. We're like missing, we're just not, like, there's no breakthrough here. It's just frustrating. I just want it to be absolutely clear that I think every person, I think the three of us are acting in good faith. Like, I don't think that we're acting in bad faith here. But there's a massive disconnect.
May I share with you my calculations finally?
Do it. Share the calculations.
You know why I was bringing in that only one coordinator peer and examining the 99 and versus the one honest user case is that the idea here is that somewhere in the middle it starts to make sense for the coordinator to jump in with another peer. And that somewhere in the middle is actually 13 peer with the average network fee of $2 of participant and the coordinator fee getting per participant 0.16. So that's at 13 peer, it starts to make sense to come in with one other peer. And, you know, like you guys pointed out that, well, one other peer is still not a real life example. Like, what happens if the coordinator is coming with multiple peers? And then we can look at this equation in a way that if we have X honest users and 100 minus X coordinator peers, then this becomes a maximization problem, because you can run this maximization where the coordinator gets the most money, and that actually if X equals 56 honest users and 44 coordinator peers, and that's where the coordinator can get the most money out of the system based on this incentive. But
so the incentive is broken.
And this is already on a high chain fee, right? So if the chain fee is lower, then it's cheaper to Sybil.
Exactly, this is with the last month averages.
Right. So previously it was just all 1 sat per byte.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, that sounds to me like we agree. Did Oman, do you have a comment here? Look, guys, I really appreciate both of you coming on the show. We've been going for almost 3 hours now, which is usually where I try and cut these things. It's been good. This has been a good discussion. This might be the best Citadel Dispatch we've had so far. And it's going out to all the Citadels, which is great. This very important topic. Open arms. Before we close, look, you've been super dedicated to join market. I feel like you should give the freaks your pitch. Like, why should people use join in box, use Raspberry Blitz maybe with join in box, or just join in box by itself, or just join market? Like, why should people use that instead of these other options?
Well, so I mean, the implementation is just join in box is just a wrapper around join market. So it's basically we have speaking about using the same thing. One being easier, having this type of interface, or you can use it on the desktop with the graphical interface. It's certainly better to use it on a dedicated box if you want to use as a maker, which is the biggest kind of feature of join market, as I feel, being incentivized to provide liquidity and mix your coins freely. I think if you're not in a rush, you can, if you're comfortable holding in a hot wallet, I think join market is a very good place to park the coins, basically, while they are getting mixed and you are generating some minimal income as well.
The income's bullshit though, right?
Well, it's
For the freaks.
0.1 to 1% of the deposited money, which is, I mean, you know, it depends what your expectations are, right? It doesn't match with BlockFi, right? Only after how much? 2.5
Fuck
bitcoins.
BlockFi. No one should use BlockFi.
There you go.
As far as I'm concerned, the base yield of Bitcoin, the base yield of the world now is just holding Bitcoin. It's an asset that's designed to pump forever. This risk-free rate concept that the traditional finance people want to shill you is bullshit. The risk-free rate of the world now is holding Bitcoin. Just stay humble and stack sets. So no power. First of all, open arms. That was a great. I appreciate that. I just want to say, like, I really like Join Box is the best way to use Join Market. Whether you use that on Raspberry Blitz or you use it as a separate image, I appreciate all the work you're doing on that front. I think it's very important work, and I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate you coming on the second time, and I expect you to come on Dispatch many more times in the future. This show is also a 6102 Bitcoin show. He's a co-host, and Nopara, he would be very upset with me if we didn't talk about systemic address reuse. This idea that there is participants in Wasabi mixes that keep reusing the same address. So they're counted in the Anonset calculation. The fees are paid out based on them being an additional privacy benefit. But clearly, if they're just reusing the same addresses over and over again, they're not a privacy benefit. Do you agree that a coordinator should just stop that from happening? Like, why would a coordinator allow that address reuse over and over again? Like, the coordinator can see it happening. They should just. Wasabi already has a blacklist if you're doing bad things, like or thought to be doing bad things. I've been blacklisted on the Wasabi coordinator because of Tor issues in the past. So why isn't the systemic symmetric address reuse being blocked, and should it be blocked going forward?
There is no way to tell if it's a donation or a real transaction, right? I mean, on the principle level, on the implementation level, sure, we could do that. However, the problem is that would sweep the problem under the rug, because that address reuse happened already. It just against the coordinator, only the coordinator knows. But we consider what the coordinator knows public knowledge, so we don't want to get in a situation where the coordinator knows more things. At least that's what we are trying to minimize, and this would be a step in the wrong direction.
But the coordinator can tell that the address is being reused, right? The coordinator can tell that it goes from one address that's been reused to another address that's been reused. Like, why? That gets pretty obvious, right? Like, it's on chain. The input side and the output side have the same address. Like, shouldn't a coordinator just block that? Like, why is that a thing?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just wasn't clear. The reason why the coordinator should not block the address reuse, one reason is that, on Bitcoin Core, you can't even detect that. But anyway, you can if you are looking inside transactions. But anyway, never mind. That just doesn't matter. So the point is that the address reuse already happened at that point, right?
No, but literally the output of the mix has the same address as an input of the mix. The coordinator knows both sides. They're the coordinator. They coordinated the transaction.
Yes, but the address reuse happens. So if the coordinator refuses that the coordinator should let it be public and not try to hide this happening. Does that make sense?
I mean, I guess my point is, like, I respect the idea of join market where we have no coordinator and it's just straight P2P. But if we're able to get away with using a coordinator, a centralized coordinator, and regulators are fine with it, that coordinator should enforce sane defaults. Like, that's the advantage of having a centralized coordinator. So why is the coordinator not enforcing a fake anon set? Like that is clear. Like on chain is clearly a fake. It's not helping anybody in the mix if the person uses the same address on the input side as the output side. It's a
Sorry,
modified
what do you
client.
mean by fake anon set?
It's a person or entity apparently that is using a modified client that has the same input address as the output address in a mix. It's the same. It's I come in from one address and I just come back out of the mix on the same address, but it's calculated in the anon set calculation. Obviously, that doesn't help anybody's privacy.
I mean, it's not like you would rely on only one other person in the peer, but in the mixes, but the anonymity sets are showing much larger numbers, and these are not significant amounts of that happening, right? Like, I have no idea how the hell this can happen, right? Like, there was an address that has been reused over 300 times, and many addresses, not many addresses, I don't actually know, but there was definitely one that has been reused 300 times, input output side. And like, whoever does this for whatever reason is not our concern. We don't want to know. We don't want to know, right? Like, we just want to know as little things about our users, whatever crazy way they are using the system, until the main properties of the main privacy environments are inact, and it don't ruin the privacy like in a significant systemic way, right?
But theoretically, just like, do we agree that like the coordinator should just not allow reused addresses in a mix?
On a principle level, no, because it could be a donation. It could be even mixing a donation address and someone else is paying that exact donation address.
But I'm not even saying
see,
the output is reused. I'm saying the input and the output are the same in a mix. One of the input addresses is the same as an output address in a mix. That should not be blocked.
So yes, that's what I'm saying, that I am mixing a donation address from a donation address, and the same person is sending, and some other person is sending the money to the donation address, to the same donation address, right? So in principle, it should not be prevented because because there are valid use cases like that.
What's the use case?
Oh, someone is donating.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying
the donation.
I'm not saying the output address is.
I mean,
So you're saying there's two participants. One participant is the donation receiver, and one participant is the donation giver, and they just happen to coincidentally be in every mix together.
You can't even do that.
You agree with me, Open Arms, right? Like, the coordinator should just block that shit.
Of course. Currently, you cannot pay inside a CoinJoin in Wasabi. So how could that be the case?
I'm sorry. You guys brought it up as in principle, right? Like, in principle, should this happen?
Well, I'm trying to be friendly about it, but it's happening in Wasabi mixes currently. Like, I just don't understand why people are being charged for those. For that perceived an onset when it's just a reused address over and over again.
This is.
We must 100% assume that the one who is controlling the address, so sending into the CoinJoin, is the same who is paying to it. Because there is no other way, and the software is there.
So, okay. Assume we are refusing address reuses centrally on the coordinator, then that means the coordinator knows more than anyone else observing the chain. And that means the coordinator has this extra knowledge that might be asked from us by law enforcement agencies. So if we try to prevent this kind of stuff in the coordinator level, then we may have some legal liabilities. Does that make sense in principle?
I mean, but the coordinator already knows this shit. Like the coordinator knows the input and output addresses, regardless, already.
It doesn't.
You're constructed. The coordinator coordinates the transaction.
Yeah, but it's an untrusted way. Okay, so I don't know what you mean because
They don't
you
know
showed
the
me a
addresses.
coinjoin.
They don't know the address from address user one goes to the second, whatever address he goes to, but they know the set of addresses on one side and they know the set of addresses on the other side because they coordinate the transaction, right?
Okay,
not-
but if
yeah.
you reuse the address on the input side, then the coordinator is going to know the link because the coordinator sees it. And if the coordinator doesn't let it go on chain, then it's only going to be the coordinator who knows it, right?
No power. Why does Wasabi already have a blacklist system in place for people they feel are abusing the coinjoin rounds?
So that is for denial of service attack protection. Those who drop out of the mix, those inputs are noted and have some stricter requirements when they can come back.
Right. That's happened to me because of Tor failures. So that already happens. The coordinator is already deciding that a denial of service attack is potentially happening. So if the coordinator decides that it is clearly a reused address, they could block that too very easily. Right?
Is this possible? Yes.
Okay. Open arms. Do you have anything else over there?
I think we've the point is made that I don't want to pay for useless anons, useless participants, right? And it's wrong to it's wrong to allow that to happen.
You're being
because it's not
charged
useful for anyone.
significant money for it too.
$0.16.
Look, Bitcoin's designed to pump forever. I don't even want to calculate. If you want me to get on RHR on Thursday and calculate how many fees I paid to you in US dollar terms, like I can do that. That's a large amount of fees I paid you.
I mean,
if you want to pretend it's
relevant,
negligible amount, that's bullshit.
The calculation relevant here is how many fees you paid after users who reused addresses, right? And that's negligible.
It can be blocked very easily. I just wish it was blocked. That's all. It's just frustrating. This is just frustrating.
So sorry, but okay. Do you understand the concept of the coordinator should minimize the knowledge that it has about its users that the public does not have?
The whole point of using a centralized coordinator over join market, a proper P2P system, is that the coordinator has this ability to enforce defaults on the mix. That is the advantage. It's convenience plus the ability to enforce these defaults. That is the reason why a centralized coordinator has advantages over a P2P system like join market. So if a centralized coordinator is not going to enforce that shit for me, then I'm just going to use a P2P version. Like that is where I stand, and that is where we stand.
I think the point of using a centralized coordinator it's that's a point. Yeah, I agree. The centralized coordinator can do more things than a complete peer-to-peer network, right? Definitely. But the other point is that the centralized coordinator must be untrusted, right? Like it should minimize the information it should have, because
But it is trusted. We agree that it's trusted, right? Like a centralized coordinator doesn't provide civil resistance against itself.
no, not at all. How
It's not
did you
trustless.
come to
It's
that?
not a trustless system. There's trust
It
involved. The
is.
trust is minimized, but there's trust involved.
Okay, yes, that's a good point. I mean, so we should strive for minimizing the trust even further. I think that's a good goal here.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's my goal. That's all I want. All I want is I just want better defaults, better implementations. I want this shit to be easy. I just want people to just want to tell people to care about it and to use it and give them a very clear path to improving themselves. That is the goal. That is what I want. I think that's what OpenOms wants. I think that's what No Power wants. I think that's what most of the freaks want. Just a very straightforward path to try and improve their situation.
You know, I can agree. Sorry, I can understand the frustration. In fact, I share the frustration even more than than you. That why Wasabi coinjoins did not change in any significant way the past 1.5 years. But you know, we sit down and we started researching at how we can do this much better, and we want to do not incremental improvements, but like paradigm shift, like a huge one all at once. And you know, I'm the most frustrated that we don't work on the coin joins, to be honest, to the core on the current coin joins. It's frustrating to me too, but you know, like it's coming, and you'll be the judge of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, like I will be one of the when you release a beta release of Wasabi Wallet 2.0, I will be one of the first people to use it. We will be one of the first podcasts to talk about it. We will talk about it relentlessly, good and bad. So I can promise you that, and I hope other Bitcoiners follow suit in that regard. I think OpenOms will also co-sign that message.
Of course.
I just want to, we're about 3 hours and 10 minutes in. This was a fantastic discussion. I appreciate both of you guys. I appreciate all the freaks who came in at an earlier time to be live with us on this Bitcoin Tuesday. Right now is basically, we're 45 minutes from when we usually start. I'm curious what the freaks think about this time change difference. Should I do this going forward? Should I go back to the previous time? My goal is to go back to the previous time. We are on Sphinx chat. We have over 100 freaks now on the Citadel Dispatch specific tribe. So if you want to figure out how to do that, I can provide you an invite if you reach out to me privately if you can't figure it out. But you can run it on your own node if you use Umbrel or Raspberry Blitz. So consider joining there. That's tribes.sphinx.chat. We have two tribes. We have one for Tales from the Crypt and one for Citadel Dispatch. So consider doing that. I appreciate both of you guys. Thank you for joining. OpenOms, I expect you to come back on many times in the future. No Para, also same thing. Like this is the whole point of this project. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I want Citadel Dispatch to be modeled after free open source projects. There's going to be no ads, no sponsors, free for everyone to use. I might break copyright sometimes, but actually the music video that's going to come at the end of this show is the first one that I've actually gotten approval ahead of time for. But I just love all you freaks. You have any last comments? We'll start with No Para.
You know, I really appreciate of being here because I don't know how you are with it, but I find Twitter to be not the right platform to flesh out complex topics, and so I just default back to try to not get involved with any kind of drama. And in fact, just a couple of points on the drama that I think it would be a pity to lose new people from starting working on Bitcoin privacy because of what they are seeing happening around them. And I just hope it wouldn't be like that, and more people would be more encouraged, and like we could flesh out a bunch of concepts like Tumblr Bitcoin swaps or all kinds of crazy things that we like only in the research phase. So I hope more people will work on Bitcoin privacy, because like it's really, really, really needed. So let's just leave it with that.
In the spirit of that, can we agree? Can we get you on the record saying that you don't think the Samurai guys are spooks?
I think it's. I don't really want to get involved. I hope I can. I just would like to keep my distance, and I don't want any more resentment in the space, and just.
Look, I respect that. Yeah. I respect that, but I'm probably one of the few people in this space that will unequivocally say on air, live, every fucking week that I don't think you're a spook, and I don't think the fucking Samurai guys are spooks. And I do not appreciate the fucking personal attacks on both sides. And the Samurai guys are 100% guilty of that shit all the fucking time. But they're not. It's not just them. And I will unequivocally say that over and over again for the freaks listening.
All right. Well, thank you, Matt.
Open arms. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I just like to say that if you have any ideas of helping you guys diving in more into using Bitcoin in a more advanced way, I mean, Join Market is a great tool for that. You don't have to use it, but it's great to try. You can try it on Signet, free, just play around. There are videos, documentation. Let me know if you can improve that or how we can do that. And yeah, keep coinjoining, regardless.
I love you both. I appreciate all the work you guys have done. Thank you for coming on the show. Shout out to all the freaks who have joined us for this one, whether you were live or after the fact. You're the reason that I do this. I think you're the reason that we all do this. Bitcoin is designed to pump forever, and we will show the world how it's fucking done. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Anything that ain't Bitcoin is a shit coin.
Spent the whole stimmy on Bitcoin. Spent it. The whole stimmy. Spent the whole stimmy on the Bitcoin. I don't wanna hear it. I ain't purchasing your shit coin. My numbers multiply. I'm stand down with the big boys. Bitcoin beast mode. Bitcoin beast boy. Alright. Spent the whole stimmy on Bitcoin. Spent the whole stimmy. Spent the whole stimmy on Bitcoin. Okay, I threw the whole stimmy at the Cash App. I don't need cash back. Without a Ponzi scheme, I'm the king of these quick flips. High school misfit, but now I'm a big fish. Big dog, big grip. Always taking field trips. Profit my only logic. Call me crypto cosmic. Bitcoin beast mode, my spit. I'm the crypto prophet. BTC the only coin I rock with. So if it ain't Bitcoin, then stop it. Biden dropped the stimmy. I hit a little shimmy. Hopped on the app to buy sats and got plenty. A couple months later, my girl was rocking Fenty. This crypto knowledge putting checks on my 10Es. Stacking sats till I got 10 Bs. I remember when it only cost 10 Gs. Bitcoin to the high, every year a new high, no lie. So I spit the whole stimmy. The whole stimmy on the Bitcoin. I don't wanna hear it. I ain't purchasing your shit coin. My numbers multiply, I'm staying down with the big boys. Bitcoin beast mode, Bitcoin beast boy. Alright, spit the whole stimmy on Bitcoin. Spit the whole stimmy. Spit the whole stimmy on Bitcoin.
Appreciate you, freaks. Shout out to King Spencino on that fucking rip. That's the first Citadel Dispatch end song that was actually requested and fucking followed through with no copyright infringement. So cheers to him. I want to see more Bitcoin only fucking content, including fucking rap songs. I love all you all. See you for RHR on Thursday. Cheers. Stay humble, Stacks.